to Turner. The rainbow is worth 3.
Jonathan Taylor having a monster game.
Joseph Newgarden takes him down to the white line. They battle for the lead at 3.
Richardson on a design run. Touchdown! I-N-D-Y.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Game day for the Indiana Pacers. They get ready to go to the second game of their best-of-7 tilt. And looking good and looking ready to go. Everybody who's an underdog is looking good and getting ready to go. You said it yesterday, James Boyd. How do you not like sports over the last 96 hours? Just look at the examples. How do you not like sports? KB, good morning. Mark, good morning. All of you. I'm just asking, how do you not like sports?
I love it. I mean, you know me, I will stay up late and hopefully make it to the show the next day to talk about it. But, yeah, last night's games were pretty fun with the Knicks and the Celtics, obviously, and then OKC and the Nuggets with the nightcap. But excited for Game 2 as well to keep the playoff things rolling. It kind of feels a little bit like March Madness with some of these endings.
It's been crazy. KB, dating all the way back to the overtime comeback win for the Pacers. Every single night somewhere, and we're treated when our teams are especially doing it well, but we've been treated sometimes twice a night to just amazing things are on the line, topsy-turvy, can't predict it type finishes. And again, I don't know how anybody doesn't like sports.
Yeah, that question probably best served for people outside of the studio. I have a feeling we all would be very strong in one camp on that answer. But
the drama's great.
Yeah, and honestly, last night is probably one of the crazier nights I can remember in NBA playoff history. And I say that in all seriousness. I know we just had 2 games, but the end of the game drama, New York erasing a 20-point deficit. You don't get the sequence you got in Oklahoma City a whole lot, where it's the missed free throw and then it's the no timeout, and Russell Westbrook actually behaved for like 4 or 5 seconds there and made the right basketball play to kick it out to Aaron Gordon. And, you know, when's the last time, Scotty, if you are listening at 7:02 this morning, last time we started off 3 semifinal game, or series, I should say, and all 3 road teams have won. We'll see if the 4th team can do it tonight. That would be the Warriors at the T-Wolves. But what a night, certainly. And that was a very fun night, I think, if you're a Pacer fan, to say, you know what? This is stress-free. We're up 1-0. This is great. The injury report looks golden for us right now. Hallelujah. Let's enjoy watching other basketball. And you were rewarded with some tremendous games in Boston and OKC.
James, you'll be happy to know that I was up until 12:48 this morning watching basketball and then Sports Center, and just I was fired up. I couldn't go back to sleep. I couldn't go to sleep.
Yeah, obviously special stuff and crazy stuff, you know, when it comes to the ending in the Nuggets game. And I do want to take a moment to seriously give a shout out to Aaron Gordon, not only for the shot, but for everything he's kind of been through. He had a piece in ESPN's Anscape. His brother actually died in a car accident. His older brother died last year in May, and he's kind of taken on the, you know, more of an active role in the lives of his brother's children as the uncle and things like that. So he's opened up about how basketball has been therapeutic for him throughout this whole process. And so for him to have these playoff moments, obviously he had the dunk in round 1 to win a game, and then last night another game winner. If you're looking for someone to root for from like a heartfelt standpoint, that's certainly the guy to do it for.
KB, when was the last time you saw a playoff game end with one team needing to make a 3 just to tie it, and the ball just gets taken away from the guy before he can even – I mean, it's just face up. It wasn't like you reached in and deflected a dribble or reached around and knocked the ball away. You just reached in and took the ball right away from him last night at the end of that Knicks-Celtics game.
Yeah, it was a great play by Bridges. I mean, minute 51 for him. That's pretty much Tom Thibodeau. And, you know, I know they got a lot of criticism when the Bridges trade happened, but this is why you make that trade, to play Boston, to match up against those guys, to try and force Tatum and Brown into very inefficient nights. And how about the Indiana kid? I mean, OG Anunoby was absolutely outstanding on both ends. I thought in particular offensively. I mean, just that sequence he had there in the final. If you only watched like the last 2 minutes of the game, you saw him hit the corner 3, and you saw his elevation for that dunk. I mean, it's just he's a pretty special talent, and I know injuries have really hindered his career, but what a performance by Brunson, and to erase 20-point deficit on the road. And I think what's so impressive about the Knicks is now that is 4 straight road wins in these playoffs. They're undefeated on the road. And if you look at the Nuggets last night, 48 hours removed from a Game 7 win, they go on the road and beat one of the best teams we've ever seen in an NBA regular season. So just the nature of both of those wins. Like tonight, it's a 7-6 matchup. Golden State, if I told you Golden State won in Minnesota, you wouldn't be stunned by that,
right?
Even though they did just come off of a Game 7. But for those two teams, like no one gave the Knicks a chance last night. No one gave the Nuggets.
They were down 20. I did not give them a chance.
Right? But even pregame,
yeah, for sure.
And so I think that's what made last night just truly exciting.
Mark, you had a great comment when we walked in the studio today. Like the Celtics are still firing threes, and look, that's their team. That's their identity. I know that's what they do. But there are nights when it's not happening for you, and they were 15 of 60, 25% from three-point range last night, and you made the great observation as the Knicks were coming back that what?
Just make one layup, and you win the game. Just, opt for like two layups. Get two layups out of the way, out of two of those free three-point shots, and you win the game. But no, they want to keep firing shots and thinking something was going to fall. I'm like, come on, Boston. Just check yourself for 1 minute and get to the paint. It's just ridiculous.
Jason Tatum, did you forget that you're 6'10"?
I know.
This is the
Throw
guy.
a body on somebody.
This is the guy that Boston Celtics fans, I actually have a few that follow me, they tried to tell me that he should play over Kevin Durant and LeBron James in the Olympics. This is what Steve Kerr saw in practice and was like, no, this is not happening. We're going to play these guys over you. But, again, we'll lament over this and we'll criticize them, and then they'll come out and make, 32 threes or something like that crazy and set some other record. But to attempt that many threes and not go to the basket was just, crazy to me. And Tatum had Jalen Brunson on him for a few possessions late, and I'm just thinking to myself, why are you settling? Go to the basket. Be big. Like, when your shot's not working, go be big. But it certainly did not work out for them. We'll also see, kind of pivoted back to the Pacers, if Cleveland can kind of get back on track with their shooting later tonight. And I know I'm looking at the injury report right now for those listening. It is official. Darius Garland is questionable with a left great toe sprain. DeAndre Hunter is questionable with a right thumb sprain. Kenny Atkinson was saying he dislocated his thumb, I believe, on the fall from when Mathurin blocked his shot. And then Evan Mobley came down on Miles Turner's foot, and now he's questionable with the left ankle sprain. So they are banged up in Cleveland with their backs against the wall.
That's music to my ears. I hate to see people injured. No, I don't ever want to see people injured. But part of any championship, you guys know this,
is rooting for injuries.
Is it not rooting for injuries,
okay.
But staying away from, like somebody was saying, I was watching this Twitter debate yesterday. I don't even get involved in those anymore, but I'll watch them. And someone was talking about, oh yeah, it'll be the Pacers. Watch again. Everybody will get hurt, and you'll just go to the Eastern Conference Finals because your opponents are hurt all the time. And then people were pointing out, I think Eddie White was one of them too, like, look at the history of huge injuries that the Pacers have suffered. And my only point is, to win a championship of any kind, you got to be lucky and avoid those things. And my point really is that it's music to my ears that the Pacers, knock on wood, have thus far avoided those kinds of things.
I mean, the Pacers the last 2 years, and Eddie White is certainly correct. Historically, the Pacers have had some very big injuries, but in the last 2 years, they've had unbelievable injury luck.
It might have been Mark Monteith, too.
Yeah. When it comes to the playoffs. And Kenny Atkinson, he sounded very skeptical yesterday about some of those players. Maybe more Hunter, honestly. That's a shooting hand, by the way, for DeAndre Hunter and Evan Mobley than Darius Garland. It's still odd to me that Vegas has this spread as big as they have it. They continue to hover right around 9. At one point yesterday, it reached 10. That is head-scratching to me. But I would say I kind of exited yesterday's show. Like, if you wanted to, and it's probably more of a Cleveland conversation than an Indiana conversation, if you wanted to, you could say the Pacers won game 1 because of the three-point line. Like, you could just boil it down just to that. The Pacers had one of their greatest three-point shooting nights of the year. Cleveland had one of their worst. That is not going to continue. That's how probably Cleveland fans view it. And that's fine. Like, I think that is actually a decent take. But the difference for me in the last 24 hours is that injury report James just read. Mm-hmm. Because now, we're talking, those are 3 of their top, 4, 5 best players that could be hindered out. And Garland, has missed now a week plus. So whatever he looks like could be limited as well. That now it kind of refocuses my thinking a little bit of, the three-point line, sure, there's going to be a regression to the mean in all likelihood. I mean, the fact that Andrew Nembhard currently is the greatest three-point shooter in NBA playoff history is maybe the most insane thing anyone will ever say on the history of this show. but it's true. Like, at some point, Mathurin doing what he did in game one, even Neesmith, even Nembhard, like, maybe there is some regression. And honestly, it might just be more Max Strus and Sam Merrill and Ty Jerome make more threes than they did in game one. That's fine and well, but now all of a sudden, are you asking Sam Merrill to play 40 minutes? Are you asking Ty Jerome to be out there and shoot maybe even more than he shot in game one? So I think as you sit here on Tuesday morning, 12 hours away from tip, Rick Carlisle will have a very easy point of motivation for his team that he can bring up, and we'll get to that here throughout the 7 o'clock hour before he joins us at 8. But that injury report, oh boy, it's ugly. And those injuries, Hunter and Mobley, both occurred in the fourth quarter the other night. Kenny Atkinson was not happy about the lack of a whistle on either of those two calls.
I do want to throw this out there, though. I don't think that these plays were dirty. And
No. And Atkinson made it clear he didn't think they were dirty, just to point that out. Context around it. And he thought there should have been a foul.
Right.
And I could hear him on the Mathurin one. I was surprised that wasn't called a foul. On the Mobley one, I mean, how many times do you see a guy landed on a dude's ankle in the paint and it really gets called? That's more of a 3-point shooting
exactly.
foul.
You don't get like the landing zone foul very often in those situations. But I understand his frustration. He did say, like, the Pacers kind of went right up to that line of physicality, like what's clean and what's not. And you could tell he was frustrated, but I just wanted to make that clear, just on our end, or at least on my end, speaking for myself. These weren't dirty plays. The players involved aren't dirty players. Like, they don't have a history of you thinking that they're going to hurt you. It's just unfortunate and a bit unlucky. And again, to Jeff's point, you can only play who's in front of you when it comes to the playoffs, and you still got to go out there and compete. And look, you have Donovan Mitchell, you got a chance, because I've seen that guy do some special things in the playoffs. So we will see how they respond tonight, and obviously who's available. But yeah, I do feel for them to some degree, because you spend all year
beat the best players too, don't you?
Yeah, but you spend all year, being healthy, and then the injury bug comes at the worst time.
Yeah, no question about that. We'll talk about it throughout the morning. Rick Carlisle coming up top of the hour at 8 o'clock. We've got a check down coming up in a moment here as we continue on a very busy Tuesday morning, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Bulldogs basketball. 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Registration for iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse premium seats runs through May 31st. Don't miss Hinkle Magic. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
Great playoff basketball last night. Hopefully we get great playoff basketball tonight when the Indiana Pacers take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. 7 p.m. tip, 6:30 airtime here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Kevin, the Pacers are up 1-0. And yes, Cav fans can boil it down to three-point shooting, but there are injury problems for the Cavs. What do you see tonight?
Yeah, the question I think is, can you sustain that level of three-point shooting? That's probably unlikely, but then just check out the availability report for Cleveland. Questionable still Darius Garland, as he was for Game 1, but then Evan Mobley, ankle, DeAndre Hunter, shooting thumb, both injured in the fourth quarter of that Game 1 loss. They both are questionable. You know, I don't want to overread Kenny Atkinson. He sounded pretty skeptical yesterday on both of their availabilities. I thought he also was skeptical on Darius Garland entering Game 1, and Garland didn't play. So, obviously, that is a huge storyline. I don't know if I sit here and I'm like, oh, yeah, the Pacers will easily win this, but I cannot believe the spread is 9.5, borderline 10 points for tonight. That shocks me. I would take the Pacers to cover that for sure.
Yeah, I think that line could probably change because –
but it hasn't since the injury report came out. Like, usually you see it change right away.
Yeah, good point. But, yeah, to me, I would never necessarily believe that line, especially considering what has happened. But I'm curious to talk to Rick Carlisle later today. You talked about three-point shooting, KB. Is the process still what you want it to be?
Yeah, or the quality of those looks
exactly.
As big of a discrepancy as what we saw.
Yep.
All right, 7 o'clock tip tonight. It's also the Golden State Warriors taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. That is Game 1 of that series, and yes, the Timberwolves are young and hungry, and they've got Anthony Edwards, and that's all great. But I know they're old, but the trio of Steph, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond still formidable, JB.
Give me the young guy, Anthony Edwards, and the Timberwolves. I just love how Anthony Edwards is disrespectful to every person who's ever on the court with him, no matter what you've done or accomplished. And it's fun. I feel like he's like the young challenger saying, nah, your reign is over. So we will certainly see that, and I say that, knowing full well what Steph Curry can do on the other side.
Last night in the NBA, Boston Celtics at home against the New York Knicks for Game 1 of that second-round series. The Knicks trailed by 20 late in the third. They come back. They win it at the end. It was a terrific play that sealed the deal defensively, JP. Have you ever seen the end of a game like that where a guy just took the ball away at the three-point line? Yeah,
that was very unique. Shout out to Mikal Bridges. He said he watches a lot of football, chanted his inner, defensive back or safety on that play and got the quote-unquote interception.
Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby each had 29 points. Karl Anthony Towns, 14 points, 13 boards. Also, the Nuggets, they trailed by 11 with 4.5 to go. They end up winning 121-119. Nikola Jokic did something that's only happened 4 other times. Twice by Wilt, once by Shaq, once by Giannis. He had 42 points, 22 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 block shots. Just kept rolling last night.
Yeah, to have a 40, 20, and 5 game is just, what is it, a ho-hum for him at this point in his career?
That. I think that was his first playoff 40-20.
He's also had 7 playoff games with 20 and 20, so it's very on brand for Jokic. He's the best player in the world.
Yeah, great games last night. In Major League Baseball, the Braves shut out our Reds, KB, 4-0, and the Cubs.
Buddy mine was at the game. The Reds got their first hit in the 8th. I'm blaming him. Blame you, Holton Whitaker. The Reds got their first hit in the 8th inning. At that point, you're cheering for the no-hitter, right?
Not against your team. I don't think you want that.
No?
No.
Oh, I think you do. At some point, you get there.
I think maybe in the 9th.
It's May 5th.
Oh, it's
in the 8th inning of the game? I think you're cheering for the no-no at that point.
Yeah, you want to witness history.
Game, 38 of the season?
Yeah.
Come on, you're a Reds fan.
Wouldn't you like to be the guy that breaks up a no-no, though, for your teammates?
Oh, sure, but if you're
I'd like to see my
hot
bank
dog
account.
3 and beer 4 in section 118, might as well just clap your hands for the no-no.
Yeah, the Cubs got their hitting sticks on last night, Mark. They beat the Giants by a score of 9-2.
Yes, they did. Bats are swinging hot right now.
All right. Later on tonight, Columbus Clippers in town to take on the Indianapolis Indians. 6:35, the time over at Victory Field. Maybe the Indians will throw a no-hitter. I can get behind that.
I'm with you, Jeff. I'm a hater to the end. Skip that. I don't want to see nothing against my team.
That's just how I am. I don't know how to tell you anything different. Kevin, anything else you want to throw in?
Certainly big news in the NFL yesterday of arguably the best player ever to play his position. Justin Tucker released by the Ravens. I thought the statement pretty odd. They acted like it was all football-related moves and not amidst, rather headline drawing allegations. 16 massage therapists accusing him of inappropriate behavior. That has been a hot-button topic for the Ravens. They did draft a kicker back a couple weeks ago. So Justin Tucker, who I guess if you want to look at it, I know he probably didn't have his normal Justin Tucker season last year, but the highest field goal percentage in NFL history, the man on the all-decades team at kicker in the 2010s, cut yesterday by the Ravens, and the NFL announced yesterday the draft will head to Washington in 2027. So Pittsburgh next year, Washington the year after that.
JB, Mark, took about 12 seconds for the internet to start the Justin Tucker to the Browns memes, too.
Oh, I was getting people, Colts should be on the phone first. I'm like, oh, boy.
I'll throw this out there. He was at 73% of his field goal conversion rate last year, which is obviously way lower than his career. His career is at 89%. So they said it was a football decision. I don't think they can say much as a team when it's an ongoing investigation. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that. And then if you do come out and say it's because of that reason, do you have to fight the NFLPA and things like that? But
I thought the 5-paragraph statement was a bit much.
Yeah, I'll agree. That's what I was going to say. Like, just cut him and not release any statement and let people, use common sense. But, yeah, this is a classic case of we will probably put up with certain things or even defend you against certain stuff until you have a criminal conviction unless you're not playing well. He had a horrible season last year, and they got rid of him for it. He's also 35. So, there you go.
All right, coming up in a minute, we will dive deep into the Pacers getting ready for Game 2 against the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight. Rick Carlisle comes up top of the hour. It's right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Game day. Good morning. Welcome into Tuesday. Hope everybody's having a terrific morning so far. The Indiana Pacers will hope to continue having a terrific postseason later on tonight. 7 o'clock tip against the Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland. 6:30 airtime here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. And Kevin, I thought you had a terrific analysis of the whole thing a little bit ago. For those who are just joining us, though, if you're a Cleveland fan, you talk about the three-point shooting is going to regress to the mean for both teams. But now Cleveland's got a bunch of injuries, too. So where are you at on tonight's game right now?
Yeah, I think I really think the Pacers have a great chance given the Cleveland injury report. I understand that the three-point line is not going to be the discrepancy that it was in game one. I mean, 30-point difference is absolutely massive, considering when, Cleveland is a very good shooting team. It's not like this is a poor shooting team, but that injury report, and really it's not just the injury report, but that's the biggest point for me. It's when you have Darius Garland questionable, you have Evan Mobley questionable, you have DeAndre Hunter questionable. Let's say two of those three are out. That is huge. I mean, if you want to comp it to the Pacers, that's a Siakam Nesmith out, a Siakam Matherin out, something along the Siakam Turner out, something along. And I'm just saying two of the three. We'll see exactly what it looks like come 7 o'clock. But I will say there are a couple areas Pacer-wise that not three, three-point line, let's say it flips a bit or it becomes just kind of a moot point. The Pacers did turn the ball over. Easily the highest of the playoffs so far. So can that be a number that just gets a little bit more manageable? And then, do you defend the paint a little bit better as well? Offensive rebound. And that's one that's more of, I think, that could be a consistent issue throughout the postseason. But we're not used to the Pacers being a high turnover team. They were that in game one. So that's where, again, I continue to look at this line tonight, and I just scratch my head at why it is this big for Cleveland.
JB, you were talking, earlier Kevin Bowen had talked about just how stellar Nembhard has been shooting in the postseason. And you've got a crazy stat that backs that up.
Yeah, so apparently he's made 3 threes in 4 of the Pacers' 6 playoff games, and throughout the entire regular season, he had made 3 threes in one single game. That's how absurd he's been and how special he's been. And it's almost to the point where it's not necessarily to me like a playoff riser type of thing. It's just, and I think Tony's put it in better terms than I did yesterday on the show when he said he's like a totally different player. Defensively, he is who he is. I'll give him credit for that. He's a great defensive player all year round, no matter what the stakes are. But shooting-wise, it's just weird. It's a good weird for the Pacers, but
it's a great weird.
I'm waiting for it to taper off. I'm waiting for the slump. I'm waiting for water to find its level. But even going back to last year in the playoffs, he shot it really well. And maybe that's just a testament to his mental fortitude because it doesn't seem like he really gets all that rattled. I do know that every now and then the free throws get a little hairy where it's like, will you make him or miss him? But as far as the outside shooting goes, it is truly unlike anything I've ever seen since I've been watching basketball in the NBA.
Yeah, I was texting back and forth with Alex Golden a bit last night. Alex was like, hey, I heard you bring up on the show yesterday that you thought Nembhard might be the worst three-point shooting guard in the entire league. He's like, well, here's some stats to kind of back that up. Alex crunched some numbers, and I believe Nembhard was tied for the worst three-point shooter of any shooting guard in the league this past season, starting shooting guard.
Wow.
And now, to further James's point, if you look at it right now, the greatest three-point percentage shooters in the history of the NBA playoffs, three-point percentage, no one is better than Andrew Nembhard. He's the greatest three-point shooter in the history of the National Basketball Association in the playoffs. And he is the worst three-point shooter in the regular season of any starting shooting guard in the league. It is the wildest thing I've seen. It makes no sense. I can't begin to explain it. I mean, James brings up Tony East in the discussion yesterday. Is he a playoff riser? I don't.
He's a clone. Someone went into a lab and said, give me the Andrew Nembhard 2.0 for the playoff run. They said, okay, well, we're on it.
It's like Reggie Miller once you cross the volleyball line, and then you're still Andrew Nembhard everywhere else.
That's what I'm
because he's
saying.
still a great defender and all of that.
You can't give away the sauce too much, Kevin. It's got to be somewhat believable. But I'm thinking, wait a second here, if I press a button on his back, will he turn into Optimus Prime or something? What is going on?
It's like an IndyCar. You just get a little extra MP, miles per hour with that
seriously,
push.
It's special stuff, and it is. Again, we talked about it though. A lot of it, I think, is also the process in which you play the game, and so if you do end up getting a lot of good looks, that's the weird thing about Andrew Nembhard. Some of these looks are just late game.
One the other night he hit from 30 feet.
Yeah, give it to him, and okay, I'll figure it out. But overall, I would say most of his shots are just good shots. They're getting good looks, not only for him, but for the entire team. And I think that is where Tyrese Halliburton's sort of, masterful playmaking is seen the most. It may not be, like we talked about yesterday, in the actual assists, which he gets a lot of, but the hockey assists, the kick-aheads, just the pace itself, and always looking for the best shot versus just getting a shot. And so if you didn't, to kind of give Andrew some credit here, which we haven't already, but he's making the easier ones early, and does that help you late because you've seen the ball go through the rim at this point? It's not like he's, one for whatever and they throw him the ball and he just tosses it up there. He's made shots a lot of times, at least in this series so far, and obviously last series, he's making shots early, and it's helping his confidence late.
I know it's kind of a popular topic in the YouTube chat, so and it's a bit semantics, and Kenny Atkinson said this yesterday. Technically, those three Cavs are all listed as questionable: Garland, Hunter, and Mobley. What's confusing is Kenny Atkinson brought up the word doubtful in regard to, I think, mainly the two guys that got hurt in the game. He seemed, honestly, a little bit more optimistic on Garland than he did the other two. And again, I'm probably over-reading a little bit into this, but technically they are listed as questionable on the injury report. But he did use the word doubtful for Hunter and Mobley, so we'll obviously keep an eye on that as the day moves along. One thing that I'm curious if Rick Carlisle brings up when he joins us here in 20, I just feel like he's got a very easy coaching point for tonight, if indeed this injury report starts to trend in a negative direction. Clearly, it looks like that for Cleveland, because in your own building a month ago, without Mitchell, without Garland, without Mobley, I want to say Strus might have been out as well, they came into your building, and frankly, they should have won the game. They ended up benching Jerome, who went off, Jared Allen. I think Hunter even stopped playing in the fourth quarter. They just stopped playing those guys late in the game. It was Craig Porter Jr. or somebody was taking some of the late shots for them. And Tristan Thompson was getting big minutes and big buckets for Cleveland down the stretch. So for Carlisle, I think that would be a pretty easy coaching point of, hey guys, we played our starters a month ago in our own building against their 7th and 8th and 9th and 12th and 13th dudes, and they really competed and probably should have won the game, frankly. So I am curious how much that would help the coaching staff of Indiana and just the Pacers in general of they're still going to have Mitchell in all likelihood tonight, obviously. They're still going to have some other guys, but even their backups and reserves really punked you for long stretches, I would say, a month ago in your own building.
And here's where Indiana might have a real advantage. We talk about their depth all the time. Certainly Cleveland has depth as well. But if they do show up having 2 or 3 guys out and the Pacers continue to play at this frenetic pace that they love, that other teams struggle with sometimes, that's just another slight advantage I think you give to Indiana.
Oh, absolutely. And I got a kick out of this. One of the advantages, Samuel in our YouTube chat says that Andrew Nembhard took MJ's secret stuff. And so that's
Take some more.
That's how it's
Keep
working.
going.
And then we had another YouTube commenter throw out Aaron Nesmith and kind of his shooting, which he's been a more consistent shooter than obviously Andrew Nembhard throughout his career, but it's kind of been super high in this playoffs. You got Andrew Nembhard shooting 57% from 3 in this year's playoffs. Aaron Nesmith is shooting a measly 54% from 3 in this year's playoffs. And again, these guys aren't taking 1 or 2 threes a game. They're taking 4 and 5 threes per outing, and they're shooting it at a very high rate. So as long as you're shooting it like that, your chances of winning certainly increase a lot.
Mark, you like this parlay here? Thank you to Anthony. He emails this in. Sounds like a great time for a KB parlay of the night, which putting my name with it sounds a little bit too much here. Nembhard at least 3 threes, and the Pacers to cover 9. $10 to win 57.
Ooh. I mean, that seems like easy money.
Say that out loud. It seems like easy money that Andrew Nembhard is going to hit 3 threes in a game. James Boyd, did you say he has never done it in a regular season?
Well, he didn't do it this past regular season.
He did not do it in a single regular season game this past year.
But 4 out of 6, so
and now we're saying it sounds
he's in the
easy
history books
here in the playoffs.
It's just you can't call him the greatest 3-point shooter in playoff history and not give Mark some confidence here.
I think you have to place
plus
that
9. I like that a lot.
I think you have to place that bet while you're eating a Kevin Bowen burger.
Well,
from Cluster Truck is what you need to do, right?
Yeah, you don't have to tell me twice. 20% of sales goes to the IU Simon Cancer Center.
I put a parlay of my own down for the game, so we'll see if that hits.
Oh, what do you got?
Well, this is a little more lengthy, but
oh man,
we'll see.
Call that number.
Pacers 9.5. Tyrese Halliburton over 18.5. Evan Mobley over 17.5.
Ooh, that's a banged up Evan Mobley. You
I
sure
know,
about that?
I know.
Okay.
Well, I made this yesterday before all that was going on. Miles Turner over 14.5 and Andrew Nembhard over 12.5. $5 pays out $70.
Boy, man. A little CVS receipt long there.
Can you cash that out and then refile it?
Not yet. Nothing's happened yet.
1 minute into the game, he's going to be cashing that bad boy
Like Evan
out.
Mobley ain't moving too good. We might need to scratch that.
We'll see. We'll see.
Actually, thought Mobley was pretty good in game 1. I thought he was highly efficient.
Did you see the play though where it was late and Siakam beat him down the floor?
Oh, he was favoring it.
And I didn't catch it in real time until I
yeah.
watched it again. I was like, oh, that's why Siakam was like so wide open, because Evan Mobley, the one thing we do give him credit for on top of many things, he can run the floor.
Right.
He is like a gazelle out there, but you can tell he took like one step and was like, oh man, that ankle is just not right.
Yeah, I mean, you could honestly say Mobley's a bigger loss than Garland if you want to, comp them a little bit there, just of how effective Mobley is on both ends of the floor. So a huge, huge storyline here for tonight. Again, 7 o'clock TNT Game 2. Of course, our coverage right here on The Fan. 6:30, and Rick Carlisle will join us here in about 15 minutes.
Looking forward to that. And we talked about Mobley being part of that 70 points in the paint the other night. That's really what kept them in the game, too, because they weren't shooting the ball very well from three-point range.
No, not at all. Yeah, not at all. What was it? They're one of the worst three-point shooting nights of the entire season. So, again, that falls in the what can the Pacers realistically improve on. The three-point shooting obviously is probably not going to sustain, but there are other areas, i.e. turnovers, points in the paint, rebounding, that the Pacers should and need to improve on.
Fan Morning Show with JB, KB, Jeff, Mark Dykton here on a Tuesday morning, getting ready for the Pacers to play a little bit later on tonight. The other guy I wanted to focus on for a few minutes, too, before we get to Rick Carlisle at the top of the hour. Tyrese Halliburton, late in games during these playoffs so far, seems to also be able to kind of take it to a different level all over the place, with whether he's passing the ball, whether he's shooting the ball. He's made just huge plays down the stretch in some of these games in the playoffs here.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide if this is the best version of Tyrese that I've seen. And I do know that like a year and a half ago, I was arguing that he was a top 10 player in the league before like the hamstring injuries and stuff like that kind of popped up. I think that he's back to sort of being at that level. Now, the reason why I might even lean more towards this version is because he's doing it in the playoffs. And that was sort of the question last year. It wasn't necessarily like, is Tyrese a good player? It's, can you perform in the playoffs? Part of that was injuries last year. I don't think we really got a full evaluation, but I would just say he's, at least in my eyes, I've kind of come to expect him to produce no matter what. And is it always going to be super high end and super efficient like it was the other night for game 1? Maybe not. But when you look up, he's going to have a double-double. I just kind of like pencil that in at this point. And I think that is a testament to how good of a player he is, because on his off night or his regular nights, he's still better than probably 90% of NBA guards.
Would you consider James Boyd to be more politically correct than me?
I don't know. I'm pretty crazy sometimes. So
that's a good question. I don't think I've ever considered that.
Right. I'm like,
Well, I'm looking at, and James obviously does a wonderful job on The Athletic with this Colts content. I'm looking at James's latest here on The Athletic with this Colts content. And there was a story that I posted, and we both do this a lot, and I speak for other people on the beat. Obviously we have a lot of like-minded stories that inevitably come out here over the course of a year. I posted something after the draft where I went winners and losers from the Colts draft. Are you a winner? Are you a loser?
We talked about that, yeah.
I'd say that's very, obvious, very direct. James, in much more of an eloquent manner, if I must say so, and I'd love for maybe a Jake Query British accent here. James went with risers and fallers. How about that?
That's good. The writers,
look at that.
The writers are supposed to have expanded
Now,
vocabulary.
nobody in the faller category will feel any line of offense whatsoever. In my loser category, I've already got parents and brothers and sisters of these players DMing me. But in the risers and fallers, boy, it sounds like a Masters Sunday line that he just threw out there.
Maybe you shouldn't have photoshopped the big red L on their foreheads,
well,
Kevin.
I didn't quite go there, but I did have to laugh at that.
I've learned, in my years and years and years of doing this, that you get more bees with honey. So sometimes you got to be a little cognizant of what you're putting out there. Because as much as players say they don't read things,
they do.
They do. And their agents do. So, if I don't have to answer for why I called you, a loser 2 months from now, it's probably a little better for me.
No, we did have a very, very much of the same individuals. I will say this, shifting gears to the Colts real fast before we get to Rick Carlisle here in about 10. It is interesting to me, James, like two of the winners, you and I both had Matt Gonzalez and Jalen Carlisle, two guys that theoretically you would say are the favorites to start at open position battles right now. Gonzalez is at guard, Carlisle is at linebacker. Both of them are making position switches from college, which is kind of interesting in that, both of them you would label as winners. Carlisle's we saw, I don't know, I guess a decent sample size of him making that position switch last year. Gonzalez, we've yet to see it. So that, I think, is going to be something when, again, we're a couple weeks away from the Colts starting their offseason program in terms of 11-on-11 stuff on field. That aspect will start up here about 3 weeks away from that. Do we see any May free agent signings between now and then? Or is this going to be definitely Matt Gonzalez and Jalen Carlisle as two, guys that, were draft picks last year, a third rounder in Gonzalez, a fifth rounder in Carlisle, as them being, cemented into that starting lineup without a whole lot of competition on the roster. They definitely added competition at some other spots, but those two position groups, I don't see much.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch, and also I'm a fan of late flyers. Maybe it turns into something. It's a lottery ticket. I don't know, but I'm really intrigued, guys. I want to get your thoughts while you're talking about positions that might be open. Hunter Wohler, who plays safety but also can play a little bit of linebacker, they're hoping. Is there a spot if he can pull it off where he can play a little bit of everywhere for Lou Anarumo?
In an ideal world, yes, but he's also a 7th-round pick.
That's what I mean. It's a flyer.
I look at him as more of being a special teams guy, honestly, and that's probably how you're going to get in the field first and foremost. And then from there, if you can get a couple of sub packages, and for those listening, sub packages basically means just little, I guess, sort of gadget defenses that you don't run all the time. Yeah, he could probably get out there and show some versatility, but he'll certainly have an opportunity to kind of show some things in camp because they don't have very much depth behind the safety spot either. So it's like, if a guy gets banged up or if you need an extra body out there, he's someone who could, do that. And to give the Colts some credit here, and I think Kevin has kind of hammered this point home throughout the show since the draft, all these guys they drafted have played a lot of football. So he's seen a lot of football, which might help him get on the field faster.
I don't know. Like I said, I like late lottery picks. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, it was a 7th-round pick.
Say one thing that stands out to me about Hunter Wohler, round 7, again, Wisconsin safety playing linebacker at the next level. Tim Smith, Alabama defensive tackle. Oftentimes when you get that late in the draft, the agents of these players would almost rather their guy go undrafted because they want to then pick the depth chart they can go to.
Yep.
Whereas when you get drafted, of course, you didn't get the pick. You are going there. But in Wohler's case and Smith's case, they both enter situations where there actually is some playing time up for grabs. Like behind Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner, who knows how that will play out. Neville Gallimore came over in free agency. I assume he will eat up a good amount. But like Taven Bryan and Raekwon Davis, some of those guys from last year, there's some playing time there. And again, at linebacker, like we just mentioned with Jalen Carlisle, it's very much open. So that's a little unusual. Oftentimes, Ballard has drafted the 7th rounder as the crazy athletic, traitsy guy that we hope our staff can develop, and we don't care what the depth chart looks like. Jonah Luwalu was the guy last year they drafted out of Oklahoma. He was never going to make the team here. He actually made it I think in Oakland or Vegas maybe.
Yeah, he did.
But that's typically what 7th round looks like for him. Whereas, Wooler, he's got a little bit of a resume at Wisconsin, and albeit he's making a position switch, he's walking into a room that is very wide open there. So, that's not a 7th round pick that I'm just sweeping under the rug, to your point, Jeff. I actually think, he walks into a decent situation.
Yeah, that's the reason I ask. And I don't know, 7th rounder, it's kind of a flyer, but to your point, looks like there could be a fit for him if it works out, right?
Special teams, to James's point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where he's going to have to make the first.
Oh, 100%. You're going to have to put your body on the line for special teams, all the dirty work. And then on top of that, can you give him some snaps elsewhere? But he said, like most 7th round picks, and most guys just say in general when they get drafted, we'll do whatever it takes to make the team and, get on the field. And I certainly believe him because he did play all over the field for the Wisconsin Badgers.
Got the rookie minicamp coming up this weekend. Kevin, anything in particular you're really just looking to see, just find out more about guys, I guess?
I'm looking to see veterans at the rookie minicamp.
Yeah.
You wait on that.
I oftentimes feel bad. Like, I have vivid memories last year of watching Latu against tryout offensive tackles just absolutely roast
Looks like Lawrence
them.
Taylor out there.
I mean, I remember 2 years back, Josh Downs just cooking dudes out there at the rookie minicamp.
A.D. Mitchell, I actually looked pretty good last year, I thought, in camp as well. Like, he was cooking guys.
And that's the unfortunate nature. You only draft 8 guys. So, there's 22 on a football field. So you can't have like-minded competition out there. It's more just honestly, it's the first time these guys have probably done football serious activities since Tyler Warren played Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl. Because you train for a track meet.
Yeah.
For the better part of 3 months with combines and pro days and that stuff. So it's kind of the reacclimation and be like, oh, yeah, this is what football is. That'll be Friday and Saturday. And then they will get together with the rest of the Colts roster. And, again, it's still about 3 weeks away from the actual 11-on-11 stuff for OTAs.
Yeah, it's going to be I know you're looking forward to being out there, JB. And later on today, got something special for you later in the show today, too.
Yes, sir.
Stay tuned for that. Kevin, you're going to like this. Mark, we are going to be talking to Rick Carlisle coming up in just a few moments. It's the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, Jeff, Mark Dykton. And the coach joins us next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
12 hours from now, we'll be approaching about halftime in Game 2 in Cleveland. Rick Carlisle scheduled to join us here on Tuesday, May 6th, 8 o'clock hour, as the Pacers head coach gets ready for Game 2. A pretty wild night last night in the NBA, James. I can't imagine there's been too many times, if any, in the history of the semifinal round that we've had the 3 road teams win each of the first 3 games here. And we'll see if the Warriors can do it tonight. And they're honestly, if you would have picked one team to win on the road in Game 1 before any of these series started, you probably would have said the Warriors over the T-Wolves.
Yeah, you always pick Steph Curry, right? But I thought last night's games were just kind of like March Madness-esque with some of the finishes. And obviously, going into TD Garden, not Madison Square Garden, but the other Garden, and getting it done on the road there was huge. Jalen Brunson hit some huge shots late. He's become one of the more clutch players I've seen, at least in my generation of watching hoops. And then the nightcap, Nikola Jokic, I thought he was having like his B minus game, and he ends up with 42, 22, and 6, and probably raised his middle finger to me and said, James, take that. Because, just incredible stuff. Russell Westbrook late. Great play. I know Chet Holmgren is probably kicking himself.
Smart play, Russell Westbrook late.
Gets the rebound, pushes it, and I'm thinking, Russ is going to, go for some crazy layup. And honestly, I wouldn't have blamed him because they were down 1, but he kicks it out for the open 3. Aaron Gordon, he swishes it, and that's pretty much game. So that's a gut punch for OKC, their first loss of the playoffs. And again, OKC's been the best team in the NBA all year. So we'll see how they bounce back. They're young. I do want to see how they respond to some adversity there. But when you have the best player in the world, I guess, Kevin, that solves a lot of problems.
Yeah, the March Madness description, I think, really, really applies to what we saw in both of those games last night. And I thought it was kind of fitting when Jalen Brunson came back in about 7 or 8 minutes to go. Reggie Miller said something to the effect of, here comes the best closer in the NBA. And I don't think Kevin Harlan maybe immediately jumped in, so it kind of sat there for a couple seconds. I'm like, man, that is high praise.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you watch the final 6-7 minutes play out, and Brunson did all of it.
Yeah.
Seemingly. Anunoby, big play. Bridges, big play. So it has been quite the start here in the semifinal round, and it began on Sunday. That was the Pacers getting it done in Cleveland. And again, Game 2 coming up tonight at 7 o'clock. Let's head to the Payless Liquors hotline right now. He is the head coach of the Indiana Pacers. He is Rick Carlisle. Coach, good morning to you. Happy game day.
Yeah, hey, how you doing?
We are well. Let's go back to Game 1, if you don't mind, for just a second. Certainly the three-point line heavily in your favor. When you went back and watched film of that, did you feel like maybe the quality of looks were as big of a discrepancy as what the box score looked like at the end of the game?
Good question. We had a really good shot-making game. I think that's probably pretty well documented. Cleveland didn't make as many. So I think coming into this game, there's a couple of things that we really got to be aware of. They had a lot of points in the first 10 seconds of the clock. I think they had 56 or something like that in the first 10 seconds of the clock. And a lot of their good threes came in transition. And so, we got to do a better job getting back. That's one thing. In terms of our threes, we've got to generate as many good ones as we can. And, shot making can come and go. And so, you can't just say, hey, we're just going to make shots every game, but the process is important. We want to get good looks. Nembhard had a big shot making night, and there were a couple that were late clock. There were a couple that were answer backs that were really at key times. And, we want him and everybody else to be really aggressive stepping into good threes. And so, that's always a big part of the game. The 3-point shot brings variance, both directions. But, Cleveland's a great team. We just got to try to make it hard for them.
Rick, obviously Tyrese is coming off another, stellar playoff performance, and I'm curious to know, how do you grade his aggression, right? I know sometimes fans, and even myself, we can say, this person should have been more aggressive because they didn't take enough shots or whatever, but obviously he's a distributor as well. So how do you go about, if he's being aggressive enough?
Yeah, and he's seen every coverage probably that there is to see, everything from full court physical denial to box and one to the physical play with blitzing, physical play without blitzing. We saw, I think, one or two different zone looks in the first game. And I don't know if this is an accurate stat, but, I was watching some of the Denver-Oklahoma game last night. And Jokic is the number one usage guy in the league, and they said on the telecast that Tyrese was number 2. And so having that kind of usage rate ensures to me that he's going to be aggressive with the ball. He's learned a lot over the last couple of years about how to attack these defenses that really go out of their way to disrupt him. And tonight will be no different. I expect more physicality from them, more presence, more hitting, more everything, more pressure, and so we've got to be aware that those things are coming. It helps to have additional ball handlers out there with Tyrese. He's got Nembhard out there at the beginning of games, and Pascal is another guy that handles the ball too. And so multiple ball handlers at this time of year are very important as well.
Rick Carlisle with us here again. Game day, 7:00 tonight up in Cleveland. Game 2 for the Pacers. Coach, one more on the Ty front. I thought late he had some big time defensive moments from you, and obviously he has spoken about this before. What have your conversations been like with him on that end of the floor? What do you want to see more of from him from a defensive standpoint, particularly I guess late in games?
Well, yeah, he's still a young player, and he's still a developing player. He's gotten stronger each year that he's been here, and the ability to hold your ground, to stay in what we call a leverage contained situation, where we can switch at the end of games when they try to attack him in these small pick and rolls. He had a couple of really important stops at the end of last game. So, look, we are going to be in different coverages. You can't give guys like Donovan Mitchell the same coverage every time. Guys like Darius Garland the same coverage every time. Guys like Strus. Strus is involved in a lot of these actions because as teams are playing Cleveland. You look at their starting lineup; they got really 4 all-stars. I think Jared Allen is an all-star caliber player too, and the 5th guy, is a guy that teams will put a weak defender on. So, at the end of games, in the quarters, situationally, if you're looking to attack the other team's weak defender, Strus is in those actions, and he's great at setting and slipping out and creating separation. He's also great at setting the ghost screens where you're not setting, you're just flying out. So these are going to be situations that we're going to have to deal with as we move forward in the series. But in the fourth quarter, Ty elevated his game defensively, and we believe that he can continue to do that.
Rick, you talked about being adaptable in the playoffs as you look ahead to game 2 and really just throughout the series. What changes about maybe game prep from regular season to the postseason from a coaching staff standpoint? Like, how much do you lean on your staff to kind of help your guys prepare for certain contingency plans in case X or Y happens?
Yeah, I mean, you always try to anticipate. Sometimes you have a member of your staff take the view of the other team as they watch the game, watch it with respect to what they will do different. To me, it's pretty simple headed into this game. It's going to be more physical. There's going to be more pressure. Cleveland's a very deep team. The building is going to be much louder. All that stuff. I mean, it was crazy loud in there in game 1, especially in the late in the third quarter when they made They made a huge run on us, and I was proud we were able to hold the line. And in the last play of the quarter, Miles hit the three to keep us in front, headed into the fourth, which was a huge play and quieted things down a little bit. Each game in a playoff series is a new chapter. It's a new set of everything. There are a lot of different things that can happen. There are things with lineup. There are things with rotation. There are things with officiating. I mean, you name it. And so we got to be ready for everything. But our general approach has got to be that we've got to attack. We've got to attack at both ends. We've got to be fearless, and we've got to expect it to be very, very difficult.
It's game 2 tonight. Reminder, game 3 Friday. Shout out to the moms for game 4. That is Sunday night, 8 o'clock inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse as we look ahead to Pacers and Cavs here in round 2. Coach, I feel like there are some qualities of your team that kind of stand above the rest. You guys play with unbelievable pace. I think your balance is rather rare, and the ball movement always stands out to me. Of those three, pace, balance, ball movement, when you look back on kind of your past teams, is there a particular quality of those three that maybe stands out with this group more than others?
Well, I just think the game needs to move faster now in general. The other team that moves really well is Cleveland. They, in terms of number of passes, they got to be way up there as well. And so, I mean, our two teams are very similar. Denver moves the ball, but Jokic has the ball a lot, and a lot of their movement is just off-ball movement off of his catches. And so, their style probably looks a little different than ours. If you're asking me about my former teams, our Dallas teams, we had some very good ball movement teams over the years, and that was a span of 13 years. But the year we won the title, we played a very freelance, free-flowing, hey, you guys get it up the floor and create as many different kinds of situations as you can. And our goal now is for every possession to look different, offensively, and hopefully that makes it difficult on the defense. But I like the way that the game has evolved. There's more use of space. Skill is at a premium. Unselfishness is rewarded, and I think, and once again, Cleveland is very similar to us in those respects.
Last one before we let you get out of here, Rick. I know you spoke about it last week when the news officially broke. Greg Popovich moving into a front office role as president of basketball operations for the Spurs, ending his coaching career. How much respect do you have for what he's done to basketball and really coaching as well?
Well, in many ways, he's been the standard bearer for our profession for 29 years. If you really think about it, and if you really look back, there's a level of inventiveness, a level of integrity, a level of care for the profession. He's done a lot of things over the years, very silently, reached out to young coaches, myself included. I think that there may have been a story about it a couple of days ago that, needed a lift, needed a little confidence. When I left the Pacers as an assistant, when Isaiah Thomas got the job and I didn't, he was one of the guys, he called me right away and said, hey, we'd love to have you come down and just watch our training camp and tell us what you see. This was 2 years, a year after their first championship, and so I had gotten to know Pop over the years when we were both assistant coaches, and he just was very unique that way. He's a great leader for our profession, and the fact that he's won 5 championships over really probably 3 different eras, to me makes him stand alone as the greatest coach ever. And you've got Red Auerbach, you've got Phil Jackson, you got Pat Riley, and there are others. Lenny Wilkins, was the all-time wins leader for a while. But I just think Pop has done it in a way that has been very rare. He's impacted generations of players and different generations of coaches. So, very special man. I saw some of the clips of the press conference from a couple of days ago. Great to see him, back out and cracking jokes at press conferences. I mean, that's so much of what his personality has been about, and he's always had a lot of fun with the game, and that's something I think we can all take away from it.
Coach, we'll end this and greatly appreciate your time, of course, especially on a game day. A few weeks back, we asked you about any Masters memories. We had another iconic event over the weekend in the Kentucky Derby. Are you a pony guy? Are you a Derby guy? You ever venture down the Churchill Downs?
Well, I have not, but I've been certainly well aware of it over the years. I grew up on a horse farm in northern New York. My mom was she's at age 90. She still has horses and still goes down and feeds every day and stuff. And we had or still have a horse farm. She was very heavily involved in riding and teaching. Riding mostly both English and Western, but probably a little more English. And my dad was an attorney, and he never went near the barn, so we had kind of an odd setup. But from that perspective, I've always had an awareness of the Kentucky Derby. It was on during dinner 2 nights ago, and we saw the conditions. It was kind of like, wow. Certainly hope nothing bad happens here with a slip or something like that. And it was, it's an amazing race. I mean, the horses are such great athletes. The riders, you have no idea how good these riders are. Just how much control they have over what's going on and their feel for the horse and when to use the crop and when not to and all that kind of stuff. And I was amazed that they got through it and everybody was safe. But that was great. But no, I have not been there. I know the kind of happening that it is, and it's always fascinating.
Certainly, indeed. Well, happy early Mother's Day to your mom. Congrats on the Game 1 victory, and certainly good luck tonight, Coach.
Okay, thanks, guys. Take care.
That is Rick Carlisle right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. Not a lot of jockeys in the NBA, right?
I wouldn't think so.
I think I would trust T.J. McConnell some way, somehow. I know he'd be the biggest jockey by 10 times, some way, somehow, to find his way to the finish line, though.
I'll throw out Muggsy Bogues,
Shout out to Muggsy,
who was a beast back in the day. But also, I enjoy whenever we get a chance to kind of pick Rick's brain about the history of the game. People have paved the way. I thought when Bill Walton passed, he had an eloquent sort of just recap of what he meant to him, what he meant to the game. And obviously, thankfully, Greg Popovich is still here with us, but to hear him talk about his career, what he meant to him, what he meant to the game was really cool. And Greg Popovich is also an East Chicago, Indiana native, and then a Maryville High School grad. Right? So
shout out to the Pirates.
There are some Indiana ties there. Basketball is our sport, I guess.
Indeed. Rick, he kind of got into it right there. It's kind of wild to look back on his career. How many coaches go back to the franchise that they once coached at, and then they hired Isaiah Thomas instead of Rick that first time around. He goes to Detroit first. And that is always crazy. I don't know. Maybe that's more of a summer. Usually we talk with Rick once or twice during the offseason. Maybe that's more of a kind of an offseason question for him, just looking back on all of that. So always enjoy those combos. So thank you to Rick Carlisle for that on a game day. That is now 3 straight playoff Tuesday game days. He has shown up with us here. They have won the previous one, so we'll see if that can continue tonight. If you missed any of that, Mark will have that up on the podcast. Reminder, 7 o'clock tonight. Much more on all of it. Mark, let's go ahead and check it down.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Butler Bulldogs Basketball. 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Registration for iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse premium seats runs through May 31st. Don't miss Hinkle Magic. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
James, we'll get back to the Pacers here in just a second, but I think you have aptly described last night as kind of a March Madness feel in the NBA. I'll let you take either game. Where do you want to go first in talking about last night?
Let's go with the end. I felt like what we saw from Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets to walk that OKC team down, steal game one on the road after being in the game 7 a couple of nights ago was just impressive stuff. And again, I can never say enough nice things about Nikola Jokic. 42, 22, and 6. Just regular day at the office.
Boy, and Russell Westbrook makes the heady play. For those that missed it, Chet Holmgren misses a late free throw. They're up 1, the Thunder. Westbrook to Aaron Gordon, left wing, and he knocks it home for what was the game-winning 3 there. So Denver wins last night, and in that first game, it was the New York Knicks erasing a 20-point deficit. It's funny, Maddie was sitting there watching the game with me. She goes, who do the Pacers want to win? Do you look at it and say you hate the Knicks so much you can't stand them winning, or do you sit there and say, you know what? If I'm projecting the next round, which is very early, I want a long drag-out series, and I might want to see the Knicks.
Is this your Kelvin Sampson Purdue question, part 2?
I don't know if it's to that magnitude, but yeah, there is a little bit of an element to that.
Yeah, I'll throw out there right now, and this is obviously getting way ahead of myself, but if you choose, I would say the Knicks, just because, you know, they might be a little more gassed.
They can play, though, and last night they certainly showed it.
Oh, yeah, Jalen Brunson, one of the more clutch players you'll ever see in the sport. And I feel confident saying that at this point. The guy just makes big shots time and time again.
And how about their wings? OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges.
I was thinking, yeah, I've got some good wings in TD Garden.
They made plays on both ends of the floor last night. Shout out to the Indiana product. Anunoby, 29, a huge corner 3, huge dunk in overtime as well, as the Knicks steal Game 1. Speaking of Game 1, again, it was the Pacers over the Cavs on Sunday. Game 2 tonight. I continue to be surprised by this line. Cleveland favored by, I think, 9.5. James Boyd, that injury report that you rattled off in the 7 o'clock hour, give that to us one more time.
It is not looking good for the Cavaliers. Darius Garland, questionable with a left big toe sprain. DeAndre Hunter, questionable with a right thumb sprain after dislocating his right thumb. Evan Mobley, questionable with a left ankle sprain after coming down on Miles Turner's foot. So those are, 3 of your top 5, 6 players? Tough sledding.
Again, I'm surprised that the line is where it is at, given that injury report. To note, Rick Carlisle, he brought up, again, 3-point line probably going to find a little bit water finding its level. But the turnover number was in particular high for the Pacers in Game 1. That can certainly come down. And as Rick just pointed out with us, early clock. They got to get back in transition better. He said 56 points in the first 10 seconds of the clock from Cleveland, so that'll be a key. Coming up tonight, Mark, shout out to your Cubs and shout out to the Reds. They almost got no hit last night. If you're going to almost get no hit, just get no hit.
That's my strategy, yeah. I'm selfish.
So you do agree with me on that?
Yeah, because at that point, like if you're seeing your team just get waxed, you're like, well, I might as well see some history while I'm here.
James Boyd heavily disagrees with that.
Well, otherwise, you're just seeing a regular ass kicking.
Right.
Yeah.
Then it's just May 5th baseball, and who
nah,
cares?
But the pettiness in me is like, I don't want you to just get everything out of you. I'm leaving here with something.
Let me add, I think when it's the random team, it's okay. Like if that was the Cubs no-hitting the Reds, I don't think I would go there. So let me throw in a little amendment to my own philosophy.
I would. If the Cubs no hit the Reds, I would be happy.
Gosh, wow. Man, Mark, that's the softest thing you've ever. Boy, you go read a book to your daughter's class yesterday, and you come back soft as hell.
No, I'm saying I would be happy if my team no hit your team. I wouldn't be happy the other way around.
What about the reverse? What if the Reds were no hitting your Cubs in the 8th inning? Would you still sit there and
kiss my ass?
There you go.
There you go.
All right. He's back. He's
back. Yeah, thank you.
He ain't that soft.
He read The Big Bad Wolf or something yesterday.
Where the wild things are, actually.
Oh, classic. There from Mark Dykton. Indians back home for 2 weeks here at Victory Field. Haven't been home in a while. You can check them out. James, a little bit of Fever news yesterday. We did see them release 2 of their, I guess they've got, 2 more spots, I think? 2 of 4, right?
I believe so, but I think they have to get down to 11
they
players.
Had 15, they got to get to 11, so now they've got 13.
Yeah, so technically you can have 12 players in WNBA. However, because of the money involved with some of their players, they have to cut it down to 11. So they released Jillian, I believe her last name is Aileen, and then Bree Hall from South Carolina. So
now Bree Hall's a second-round pick, and again, you can explain this for our audience. I mean, you hear second-round pick getting cut, and last year's team, they cut, like, Celeste Taylor was maybe even higher pick than Bree Hall and she got cut as well. Could you explain a little bit for our audience on
So
that?
I put this out there on social media yesterday and got some interesting comments from people who may not be as informed. But I said, hey, it's the hardest league to make it in. And I mean that for North American sports. But just to give you a quick numbers rundown, there's like 13, WNBA teams, roughly 12 players per team. So you're looking at about 150 players. That is a hard league to make. When on the men's side in the NBA, there's 30 teams and there's 15 roster spots, so about 450 players, 300 player difference there. So if you have the same amount of college players competing but less spots in the pros, it's harder to make it. So I'm not surprised that Bree Hall was waived, but at the same time, I do feel for her. It's just the nature of a tough business. And hopefully we look up 20 years from now when Caitlin has helped push the league forward and others, you're saying, okay, this isn't the case anymore.
All right. On the other side, and again, Fever have got a preseason game coming up this Saturday. Gino Guidugli, is that 9 o'clock, Mark?
No, that's next.
That's at 8:30?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You want James and I to leave the room?
Notre Dame quarterbacks coach talking a little Riley Leonard. We'll do that on the other side here. It is the Fan Morning Show right here on a Tuesday, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Kevin Bowen standing at attention. That's how it goes.
This song gets me excited, Mark Dykton. Thank you for that.
It's the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, Jeff, Mark Dykton. Real quick before we get to our next guest, who's patiently holding on to the line, could you describe, Mark, the wear that Kevin Bowen is gracing us with this morning?
Kevin is normally wearing some sort of Notre Dame apparel. Today he's got his Notre Dame Indy hat on. I can't see. Oh, and he's wearing his college football playoff shirt.
Yes,
so, yeah, he's
indeed.
decked out as usual.
Yeah, it's good to go.
Probably for a special occasion.
I won't reveal any other clothing that I'm wearing.
That's good. That welcomes in our next guest, Gino Guidugli, the quarterback coach at Notre Dame. Coached Riley Leonard last year, now a member of the Indianapolis Colts. Good morning, Coach, and you have a big Notre Dame guy
he's
in
like,
studio
what the
here.
hell did I just walk into? Apologies, Coach. I'm not as
love
creepy
that.
as I sound.
I love hearing it, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Hell of a run last year. Congrats on that.
Appreciate it.
A lot of fun.
We had a great group of kids.
What was special about that team? Why were they able to put it together and sustain it for the entire season?
You know, I think it just speaks to the leadership of the guys that we had kind of at the front of the room. You know, going into fall camp or after spring ball, I don't think anybody necessarily looked at the team and said, hey, this is going to be a national championship team. You know, coaching or playing at Notre Dame, there's always that possibility every single year. That's the goal every single year. But I think just as the season went on, the guys at the front of the room got stronger. Like every week we went on, we got better and better. And I think it's just a tribute to the guys, kind of the captains and the leaders at the front of the room.
Coach, I assume Riley Leonard is one of those people that you are pointing to. Obviously, the Colts take him here in round 6. I want to go back to the transfer portal. You guys obviously played him at Duke, and he got banged up late in that game. What enticed you pre-Notre Dame about Riley Leonard? What did you know about him that you guys were getting?
You know, I know that week for the Duke game, our defensive staff, Coach Gold and the rest of the staff, were really concerned about Riley Leonard and just spoke volumes of like, hey, this quarterback we're facing is going to be really good. We got to keep him in the pocket. You know, he can do it with his arm and with his legs. And that's kind of where the hype for us got started with Riley, obviously even before he went into the portal. And, you know, who knew 4 months later he was going to be in our program.
To kind of piggyback off of that, I know Kevin asked you, and this is James Boyd here. Thanks for joining us, Gino. To piggyback off that idea of what you discovered about him in like the scouting process and bringing him into Notre Dame, what did you find out when you got him there and obviously has led him to the NFL?
He's just a great kid. Like a great story, I think, is like I met him once he was in the portal, and you know, he just talked about, you know, we were talking about our offense and some of the obvious things. And his question to me was like, you know, what do you think the first thing I need to do when I get there is, or like, you know, what can expedite this process? And I was like, the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to come in and you're going to have to win the locker room. And, you know, his method of doing that, like Riley ended up making flashcards of every single person in the building, like went to our website, printed out pictures, put them on flashcards. So the minute he stepped foot on campus in January, he knew everybody's name in the building, you know, freshman walk-ons, people that work in the front desk, the people that work in our training table. He came in and knew everybody's name. And, you know, I think that was just like the first glimpse of like, oh, we got something special here. He gets it.
When you're talking to the Colts or other potential NFL teams that might be taking Riley in the draft, what was the most interesting question to you that you wanted to share about Riley with those NFL teams, and specifically the Colts?
You know, Kevin Rogers was one of the guys that reached out to me, and Kevin was at Notre Dame when I was getting recruited out of high school. And, you know, he was just really talking about the on-the-field stuff. And I just told Kevin, like, if Riley had the ability to come back for one more year of college football, I think everybody in the NFL would be talking about him being in the position of the Cam Ward and the Jackson Dart next year. Like, where is this guy going to go in the first round? And I think he's that kind of a talent. And I think his best football is truly still ahead of him.
Kid's a true student of the game, and he loves football. He's ultra competitive. And like I said, like with continued development, I think the sky's the limit for him.
That's the voice of Gino Guidugli, Notre Dame quarterbacks coach. Of course, coached Riley Leonard this past season up there in South Bend, and Riley, the 6th-round pick of the Colts. It's funny you mentioned that the old flashcard game. He knew all the Colts brass name when he walked in there for his combine interview back in February. Probably just another indicator of kind of who he is as a person. When you think back on that opening drive against Ohio State and what he did for you on that opening drive, what are your impressions? What are your memories of that drive?
He's just a beast. Like, I don't know. I think we called his number about 8 times, whether it was a run or a scramble on that drive. And kind of our game plan going in was like, hey, we've got to be able to convert on 3rd down. This is the last shot. This is what you got. Lay it on the line. And he was prepared to do that from play 1 till the final whistle blew in that game. And, I think it ended up being an 18-play drive, scoring drive to start that game. Just gave us great momentum and kind of was the exact game plan that we had talked about going through our prep. And for him to go execute it and just start out on that foot, like, I'm sure that'll be a memorable one for him and for our staff as you look back at your career at the end of the day.
Coach, as we look ahead to Riley's future, certainly as a backup to start things off with the Indianapolis Colts, how do you foresee him developing as a better passer? We know he's a terrific athlete, he's a smart kid, student of the game, all those kinds of things, leader. How does he improve the passing aspect of his game?
I think all throughout our season, he got better as a passer and just kind of understanding that his feet and the timing of it and how important the drops are, just becoming more consistent in his drops. When he's consistent with his footwork, that he's got all the arm strength in the world. And he's a really smart football player. He'll be able to pick up the schematics of it. And I think it's just a matter of him getting really consistent with his footwork.
Here's one for you that's not totally off the wall, but not Riley Leonard related. But I know you coached Cincinnati, so what has it been like to see Alec Pierce sort of take off in the NFL?
Oh, it's been awesome. And obviously he was a tremendous playmaker for us at Cincinnati and was a big reason for us to be able to make that playoff run. I'm so happy for him. I think he couldn't have landed in a better spot. And the same thing he's doing for the Colts is what he's doing for us at Cincinnati. Like, the guy is just a deep threat. And I think he's developed his game into where he could be a number 1 in the NFL. And, right when you guys text Riley, I sent AP a text just saying, hey, make sure you take care of our guy. And he said, I got you, Coach.
Well, Coach, thanks for taking care of us this morning. We appreciate that. Kevin Bowen can now move along with his broadcast day. He's spoken about Notre Dame and Notre Dame football.
I thought I was a professional, right?
Yeah,
was
absolutely.
It not? Coach, good luck with the quarterback competition. I won't ask you anything on that end, but good luck with it.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Coach. Have a great day. That's Gino Guidugli, the quarterback's coach for Notre Dame. Kind of an interesting look, though, at Riley Leonard.
Well, and I think that last part that he does bring up, and I get it's a little bit of coach-player talk, but had he returned at Notre Dame, and for those unfamiliar, transferred from Duke to Notre Dame for just 1 season, and he was hurt. He missed pretty much their entire spring offseason program. Had he been with another offense for another year, had he been healthy for another offseason, what would he have looked like then coming out another year? I do think that's an interesting point to bring up because really a lot of people at Duke thought he would be a high draft pick, much higher than a 6th rounder.
I did.
And he certainly did not turn out that way. My question would then be to that, while it's an interesting thought, James, I just don't see where he gets meaningful reps. I mean, right now, Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones need all the reps. And when you think they need all of them, they need even more than all of them. Like, they need all of these reps. Like, honestly, the best situation for Leonard probably would have been to go someplace where, I don't know, maybe the starter's going to miss a chunk of the offseason due to an offseason surgery, and then Riley Leonard gets, backup quarterback reps, for example. Like, where can he take strides with meaningful reps? Maybe it'll happen next year, but I just don't see it happening this offseason. Yeah,
I mean, the majority of his reps will probably come from those end of training camp practice, developmental periods and things like that.
Which you know how few those are.
Yeah, exactly. So those are few and far between. But at the same time, he's in a sneakily important position, as we've talked about, because of the 2 guys ahead of him. have been banged up throughout their careers. You have Anthony Richardson, who's missed 17 games due to injury through his first 2 years. Daniel Jones has missed 17 games as well through his first 6 years, but he's also missed multiple games in 4 of his 6 seasons due to injury. So, and there is a real world out there a few months from now where Riley Leonard could be one play away from being one play away on the field.
That's what's going on with the Indianapolis Colts. We turn our attention back to the Pacers, who play Game 2 of their second-round playoff series in Cleveland tonight. We'll get you ready to go for that next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It is game day for the Indiana Pacers and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Game 2 of their second-round Eastern Conference playoff series. Tips off tonight, 7 o'clock, pregame right here at 6:30 on the Fan, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan, and KB on TNT. Boy, for those just joining us this morning, maybe you had a late night watching basketball last night, whatever, the Cleveland Cavaliers may have some injury issues before we start this game tonight.
Yeah, it is it's certainly favorable in the Pacers situation, unfortunate for Cleveland. So Darius Garland is still questionable. I believe Kenny Atkinson's update yesterday was he did participate in the walkthrough. So we'll see if he makes his return. Again, he's missed about a week plus at this point with that big toe injury. And then in the fourth quarter on Sunday, Evan Mobley came down. He had a hook over the left shoulder on Miles Turner, came down on Turner's foot, sprained his ankle. And then later in the fourth quarter, I think we all remember the Benedict Mathurin emphatic block on DeAndre Hunter. That dislocated the shooting thumb for DeAndre Hunter. Both stayed in the game for what it's worth. I think Hunter might have exited, but then he came back. Both finished the game is probably how I should put it. But now both are listed as questionable. And James Kenny Atkinson, I would say, sounded a little bit more doubtful. I don't know how much that was coach speak or whatnot, but those injuries, just name in general, Garland, Mobley, Hunter, those are three very, very important names, especially the first two for Cleveland.
Yeah, those are difference makers. Those are all-star caliber players, and Evan Mobley and obviously Darius Garland. And DeAndre Hunter might have been one of the best trade acquisitions of this season. So they probably will be depleted. I wouldn't expect all three to be available. Kenny Atkinson did not sound very optimistic yesterday, but if they are, at what capacity are they playing? Because the number he threw out for Darius Garland, I want to say a day or two ago, was like, is it worth it to put him out there if he's at 50 or 60%? And I'm like, man, if it's that bad, yeah, you probably don't want to play him because at that point, it's a healthy Ty Jerome and a bigger dose of Ty Jerome better than a hobbled Garland. And Garland is like a shifty guard. Like he's not he's not Luka, he's not Cade Cunningham. Right. He can just shoot over you. A lot of his game is cutting and moving. And I feel for him, but at the same time, the Pacers are in a position to take advantage of their opportunities. And part of the advantage you have in sports sometimes is injuries. And I think that they're, hungry to go out there, not only just injury-wise to prove themselves, but to be greedy. We got one, why not get two?
Yeah, you'd be foolish to think the Pacers will just walk in that arena tonight and be plus 30 again behind the arc. Like, that is a rather ludicrous thought when you look at the discrepancy from game one. Okay, so how else do you create other advantages? Boy, the availability report, I think, could create a huge advantage depending on what Cleveland's health is. And it's not just all there. Like, level of optimism for game two, I don't think solely lies on that. I do think it could definitely impact the game. But going back to our conversation with Rick Carlisle from a half hour ago, again, the Pacers had a turnover number the other night that was higher than they sniffed in any of those games against the Bucks. So can that turnover number get to be more of what we're used to with the Pacers? Right around 10-ish. I think it was like 16 or 17 in game one. And then also, and this storyline's a little bit more of one that I have skepticism on. I just think the points in the paint, the rebounding questions, assuming Mobley's healthy, I think that'll be a storyline all series long. I think that's the one advantage Cleveland can come back to. The Pacers have advantages in other ways, but that's the one advantage I think Cleveland can come back to that can be pretty consistent for them throughout this series.
And one of the beautiful things about playing a series in any sport, and certainly in the NBA, and we've seen it over the years, and Rick kind of alluded to this in the conversation a little while ago, is every game is an entity in and to itself. So just because you saw a bunch of stuff in game one doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you're going to see in game two.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a chess match, and that's a bit of a cliche at this point, but it is true to a certain degree. I think that overall, though, you want to kind of stick to your principles. Obviously, you want to get out and run. You want to move the ball. You want Tyrese Halliburton to be the guy who sets the table for everybody else, or as he describes himself, he wants to be the team mom. So you want those things to continue, but how they continue will probably be different because with most great players, and I think Tyrese is in that category, you have to throw different things at them and kind of give them different looks, and I believe it's going to be vice versa. I would venture to say the Pacers don't want to give up 70 points in the paint. They don't want Donovan Mitchell to get downhill as much as he did, like he did in game one, so we'll see how they adjust too.
I want to talk about Hunter's thumb injury. staying in the game after a dislocated thumb, like I kind of get it. It hasn't had a chance to like swell up and get really truly achy. But you got to be tough to come back from a dislocated thumb in the middle of a basketball game, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's props.
Yeah, it's the playoffs, and obviously someone asked earlier, and I say this tongue-in-cheek, but also very truly, they're like, man, how could he play tonight if he does? And I'm like, drugs. They'll give you a bunch of drugs, and you probably can't feel your thumb, and then you'll feel okay enough to go out there. But
if you're not feeling your shooting thumb, then I would say don't guard DeAndre Hunter tonight. If you're the Pacers.
I don't think it's necessarily feeling it. I think it's feeling the pain within it. It's like, can I move it and flick it? Maybe I'll make it work. But
Mark,
boy,
are you back on it again?
James.
Oh, my bad.
It's usually Kevin that teased me up like that.
I've never seen Mark. The amount of movement Mark had to get to that button, that was incredible, Mark.
That took you away from Candy Crush
I
right
was
there.
like, wait a second,
I think Mark just pulled a vertebrae in his back reaching for that button.
Got back spasms now.
My bad. Yeah, I guess added to the highlight reel.
Mark, I think I've behaved compared to Ellie De La Cruz's line and DeAndre Hunter's level of movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were the betting favorite heading in, and you are third place right now.
You like it that way, though,
well,
don't you, Kevin?
I better watch myself here in the final hour and 6 minutes. Of
I definitely did not mean to go that route, but I'll let you take it.
Well, I will add one more thing as we try to get this back on the train tracks here. Rick Carlisle mentioned, hey, I expect more physicality, more pressure, more hitting from Kenny Atkinson's group. It kind of falls in line to what Kenny Atkinson said yesterday, though. I think he was, and again, there is context around it. I think he thought the Hunter and Mobley plays, both of them should have been whistled for fouls. And I think he was resigned to the fact of he wasn't calling the Pacers dirty. I don't think anything like that. He just thought that, okay, is that now how the whistle's going to be called? And if so, we need to meet that whistle. Talking about Cleveland. Like, we need to bring that level of physicality because Cleveland, they don't really have the obvious Tyrese defender. I mean, Hunter, honestly, would probably be the thought of that. Strus, I guess, in the starting lineup. So, how does Cleveland kind of make up for that? Do they just bring more physicality towards Tyrese, and do we see that tonight?
I've got a question about coaching for both of you coming up in just a moment. We'll also, in the next hour, maybe listen back to a little bit of Rick Carlisle and what he had to say a little while ago here on the Fan Morning Show. We'll do all of that next as we continue 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We have reached the best part of our broadcast day on a Tuesday, gentlemen. Kevin Bowen, the cluster truck order has arrived today. Wow.
It is excellent as always. Shout out to the great Evan Sherrill Cluster Truck fan promo code. That's FAN. I cannot tell you how many times I went to the chiropractor yesterday, and they're like, hey, we ordered your burger. Cluster Truck is our first time. We absolutely loved it. I was like, well, thank you very much. 20% of sales goes to the IU Simon Cancer Center for research there. So excellent menu that's just more than the Kevin Bowen burger. Yes, I would like for you to order that, but I see a little Korean beef action in front of Jeff.
Broccoli and Korean beef is excellent.
There you go.
Excellent stuff. I like
Can't go
that
wrong.
Right there.
Clustertruck.com. Again, fan promo code FAN.
Good stuff there. Indiana Pacers back on the court tonight on the road. Game 2. They stole Game 1. Let's see if they can get Game 2 tonight. There's
I don't know if they stole it.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good way to put it.
You know, when
I always think of stealing on the road, but yeah, they just won that game.
But no Garland. I just think that's a little bit more of like, not you need to go and get it, and if you don't get it, you're doomed. But I don't think this was just a thief by the Pacers.
It was there for the taking.
I think it was, it was sitting, and honestly, tonight is sitting there for the taking. Again, I don't think it's the most alarming thing in the world if you don't get it. But let's play this out injury-wise, James. 3 key injuries for the Cavs tonight. Let's say Garland and Hunter sit. Mobley plays, okay? So they're missing whatever. Their second and their 5th best player. And then they both play on Friday, Garland and Hunter. So theoretically, they're healthy now for the rest of the series. The fact that you have an opportunity tonight to get them shorthanded, and if you don't get that, now it's 1-1, and now they're fully healthy with 5 games to go the rest of the series, if that hypothetical plays out. That's where I look at tonight, and common sense would say, it's a house money game. The Pacers already got one. No. I'm not falling into that trap. Again, it's not the end of the world if you don't get it. I want to make sure I'm clear there. But also, there is a great opportunity on the road to potentially break Cleveland tonight, and given their health situation, that adds to it. So I don't want to lose sight of that.
I have a question for you guys. Yesterday, we haven't really mentioned it today, but Kenny Atkinson was named the NBA Coach of the Year yesterday, which I don't think it's fantastic for him. But do you kind of still feel like maybe Rick Carlisle has the advantage in coaching with all the NBA title in his belt and all the playoff appearances and just the wealth of experience that he has? I'd still probably rank him above Kenny Atkinson. Wouldn't you, James?
Not really. I mean, I don't even look at it like that, to be honest. I think that Rick has obviously got a hell of a resume. I think he'll be a Hall of Famer someday, but they both can coach. And I think when you have a team that's been the best team in the East from start to finish all year, you've kind of proven yourself as a coach. And he's coached before as well. So, no, I don't necessarily look at it like it's, this – if it is an advantage for Rick Carlisle, I think it's marginal. I think it's more so the players you have out there and who's available for you and your style of play. But what I'm curious to see is, like, how can the Pacers respond to not only the three-point shooting, like, can you keep it as high as it's been? I mean, at some point, Nesmith and Aaron Nimhard do have to return to earth with us because the way they're shooting right now, it's, like, otherworldly. But also, can you be better in the paint? Because normally you get up 70 points in the paint, you don't win those games. And so to KB's point, if Evan Mobley is a go and he's able to go out there and be Evan Mobley, how does that affect the series or affect the outcome of the game? Because I just don't see them necessarily sustaining a lot of winning if you're constantly getting destroyed in the paint like that. And I know rebounds were even, but even then, you probably want to clash the glass a little bit harder to make sure that you're not, so lopsided in points in the paint.
Where do you come down on the coaching, Kevin? When you talk about Rick Carlisle, just look at the wealth of experience that he has and so many series that he's coached in, and maybe recalling, this happened back in 2012, and I remember we did this, and it was incredibly successful. Just that wealth of experience, to me, would give him just that little bit of advantage if you're talking about matching up.
Certainly, the playoff resume, 2 very different coaches. Very different coaches and what Carlisle has on it versus Kenny Atkinson. Atkinson, I thought, was extremely deserving of Coach of the Year. I know J.B. Bickerstaff certainly had a strong resume as well, but what Cleveland did was pretty historic. But yeah, I think when you get into these playoff series, I do think experience matters. And, just in general, the Pacers group has been through a lot more than Cleveland's group in the postseason. And this is kind of the conversation we had late last week about this playoff series as we started to preview it. And I kept on saying, like, can Indiana put playoff pressure on Cleveland? Like, Indiana has dealt with playoff pressure. I'd say they dealt with it last year. I don't know how much they dealt with it necessarily in round one, but they certainly dealt with it last year. Cleveland's group, I think, is yet to deal with it. And right now, the last 48 hours, they've dealt with it. I mean, it's been a lot of just, oh boy, this is a little bit. Can you really go down 0-2 at home? I mean, how many times do we ever see that? The one seed losing the first two games of a semifinal round. We don't usually see that at all. So I can't wait for tonight. Yeah, I mean, sure, there's a little bit of, you got a few more chips in front of you, but at the same time, I think you want to be greedy. So very, very interested in seeing, A, what the availability report looks like for Cleveland as we get closer to tip time, and then B, how they come out.
I'll push back a little bit there on some of the playoff experience. They've been a perennial playoff team. Obviously, they switched coaches from Bickerstaff to Atkinson this year. But one of the things I kind of look to, especially situations where you might not be at full strength, is, okay, do you have your top guy? And you do still have Donovan Mitchell, and he has plenty of playoff experience. He is what I would consider to be a playoff riser. His numbers usually go up in the playoffs. And even in game one, I know he didn't shoot the ball that well from the outside, but he's still, I mean, there were times in that game we were all like, okay, here comes Donovan Mitchell. They're going to take this game. So does he put it on himself to kind of go out there and put the cape on? And I'm not saying go out there and jack up a ton of shots and, you got to score 50 to win, but how assertive and dominant can he be? Because if there is somebody who can kind of, put the team on his back for stretches, it's that guy. I've seen it so many times before. I know he just broke the record for, consecutive game ones with 30 points or more past Michael Jordan. Obviously, that's no, small feat. So he's doing this for a very long time at a very high level. And I'm curious to just see how much he can shoulder to give his team a chance. But obviously, all that considered, you need somebody else to come with you. And can Ty Jerome play better? Can Max Strus knock down some shots? I thought Ty Jerome, going back to him real quick, took way too many shots. 20 shots was just too many. And even if you take 20 again tonight, take good ones. Like the ones he was taking were just not good looks at all. Felt like he was pressing a bit. And you could tell after game one, he was in the locker room. I forgot who asked him the question, but, like, what's your confidence level? And he looked like he was just annoyed with the question, which honestly was a poor question. He's like, what you want me to say? You think we're going to lose? Yeah, we're confident. We're the Cavaliers. So I'll see how he responds as well.
I hate to give Jake Query any credit, certainly in a public manner. Gosh, he is very talented at what he does. But him and Mike Chappell had a conversation yesterday, James, that I feel like could fall into you and I's boat a little bit here. Colts connections with Pacer players. If you had to say...
I got one for you that you probably have no idea, but I do have one.
The Pascal Siakam, and maybe Colts connections isn't the proper way to put it.
Comparisons?
Yes. Thank you, Jeff.
Oh, okay.
Pascal Siakam is who on the Colts?
Pascal Siakam is who on the Colts? That's a good question.
Michael Pittman, maybe?
Probably. I mean, a high-end player, consistent.
Count on the productivity, right?
Yeah, and as long as his back isn't messed up, he'll go out there and get it done.
How about Buckner instead of Michael Pittman Jr.?
Yeah, that works because he plays at an
I think
incredibly
Siakam,
high level.
Buckner, just so reliable, always there.
All
Plays at a
NBA,
consistently
all
high
pro.
level.
Yeah, I could see that.
Where'd you go for Halliburton?
This is a trick question. I'm like, he's a great passer, so I can't pick any quarterback.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. To be fair, I don't think they're going to the passing element of it
I was like,
you might have to go for like Tyler Warren's trick plays at Penn State.
Yeah, I was just making sure. I'm like, you set me up here.
If we go best
I actually
player?
disagreed with them on who they went with. They went Pittman. They brought up the back because I guess Halliburton's dealt with the back. I would not go Pittman.
Jonathan Taylor, just
I
the
would
best
go
player
Taylor.
that have. Yeah, that's where I'd go.
Sure, I don't. It's a hard comparison. I don't because
honestly, it's probably fair to say there really isn't one like
Halliburton. Because I'm just like it would be the quarterback.
It would be.
Well,
in
sure,
theory.
yeah. And then also one, and we can stop here because we've probably given Jake enough. he asked him about Benedict Mathurin. Chap went with A.D. Mitchell. I thought that was the biggest slap in the face of Benedict Mathurin's entire career.
No, he's more proven, obviously, than A.D. Mitchell.
Mathurin had one of the best rookie seasons the Pacers franchise has ever seen.
Yeah.
Do we know what A.D. Mitchell did as a rookie? I mean, I'm like, Chap, come on, brother.
So again, is this a classic Jake Query setup question? Because I'm like, where are the good answers in this? Because I think
like
a good comp for Benedict, Josh Downs?
I thought Andrew Nembhard to Josh Downs was outstanding. Like Nembhard, very reliable, a little bit under the radar. To me, like Josh Downs is great. They didn't do Aaron Nesmith, but when I think of Aaron Nesmith, I think of like a Grover Stewart. Again, a little bit under the radar, but just super reliable at that sort of position. Mathurin to A.D. Mitchell, I thought was horrible. I think it's such a slap in the face.
Who? Mathurin to
who is a volatile, I guess a somewhat volatile Colt player, but has also been good. Like A.D. Mitchell's yet to be good.
And I think
I'm thinking maybe
he's too consistent.
Maybe
I would say
Jalen
Kenny
Jones?
Moore's too consistent.
Right.
I don't know. This is a hard conversation.
Would you go Zaire Franklin at all?
To Benedict? I do think they have similar like mindsets. Now one's an All-Pro. I'll give him that nod.
Yeah, but at times I think that's a little overhyped.
Fair. That's fair.
I don't know if there's a perfect comparison, but I could get on board with that.
I do think their mindsets are similar, though, because Zaire is like,
sure,
everybody's an enemy, and I think Benedict is wired the same exact way. I mean, Benedict was telling us before he played an NBA game that LeBron has to show him he's the best player. And I'm like, are you kidding me? He will show you.
And who knows what he said to Giannis. By the way, Tony East, I was at Pacers practice last week. Tony East did ask Mathurin about the Giannis hand on the back of the head incident there at the end of Game 5. Mathurin actually took a bit of the high road there. Said he had no issues, two competitive guys, just having a chat there post-game.
Yeah, I respect it. You have no issue after you address the issue. That's all it is.
I could totally see Mathurin saying to him, you are a bleep, 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 bleep. Could totally see that.
There's a couple of guys that talk on this team, and I don't mind it at all, but Benedict, certainly. I mean, did you see how he looked over DeAndre Hunter after the block in Game 1? He ain't nobody that's just gonna like let things go. He has an extra little edge to him.
A little menacing look there.
Andrew Nembhard, the same way. I'm not falling
Mathurin
for.
Stood over Hunter for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, all these things. It adds to the element, and also it speaks to their level of we're not getting punked. That's part of it too. It can be annoying for other teams, other fan bases, but if you're a Pacers fan, you're like, we love it. We're sick of people, thinking that we're going to be like this stepping stone for their success. No, we're going to kick you down and then, keep moving with our things.
The phrase I kept hearing as I was watching national shows and listening to national radio over the last couple of days, it's very popular now. Don't overlook the Pacers. Don't look past them. Don't overlook them. They were talking about this on the TNT postgame the other night.
So, yeah, I mean, you can overlook them if you want to and just get reminded of how good they are. And I don't even think the Cavs overlooked them. I know Donovan Mitchell has a ton of respect for Tyrese. He was asked about the anonymous player poll, and we played that clip last week where he's like, "I didn't vote. I didn't choose him." And I'm very curious again. How do the Cavs respond? Proper English there. Sorry. To having their backs against the wall a little bit. It's not like over if they lose tonight, but it certainly would become dire. And then number two, just if you have to play with a new lineup you haven't really run out there throughout the season, how prepared will those guys be? And I think the guy you look at, Donovan Mitchell, it's like you've been through so many different storms. You've always kind of, showed up. And can you do it again when we need you the most? And that's kind of why they brought him there. I know he's like there was some debate. Is he first team All-NBA? Should he be an MVP candidate, best player on the best team in the East? All those things. And maybe he didn't get the respect there. But these are the moments where I think you kind of prove it. Okay, this is why they acquired me. It wasn't to be like the mild-mannered, easygoing star when things are going great. It's to be the dog when we got to, kind of get things on track.
Kevin, you had pointed this out earlier in the show. If Rick Carlisle has one clear coaching point to talk to the guys about tonight, it was a very hobbled, not even hobbled, but depleted Cleveland roster that gave the Pacers all they wanted.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I was a little surprised he actually didn't bring that up when we had him on earlier. But yeah, a month ago, for those that don't recall it, the Pacers were still playing for home court. So they played their guys in a home game against Cleveland. Cleveland did not need to play their guys, so they benched, I want to say it was Mitchell, Garland, and Mobley, and I think Strus as well. Ty Jerome went off. Jared Allen played, and then I don't think played in the second half. DeAndre Hunter exited early as well. Jerome then didn't go back in the game after they had a lead in the third quarter. And the Pacers, almost lost to a bunch of, those guys, but a bunch of Canton Charge dudes, really. And so that, I think, if all of a sudden, Rick gets that injury report at 6:30 tonight, and those guys are out, or even this morning, he can just pop in the game film and be like, guys, there are other dudes, they punked you for long stretches in a game that we needed and they didn't need. So I do think that is kind of sitting there for Rick if he would like to use that. I was a little surprised he didn't bring that up with us earlier. By the way, thanks to Ron, some in the YouTube chat, they have gone with Alec Pierce for little Benedict Mathurin. I'd say personality, no, but I can see where you're coming from. With Pierce, it's kind of boom or bust. And with Mathurin, at times, it feels like that.
The booms are big, though, with Pierce.
The booms are
They're big.
Very, very big. And with Mathurin, when he gets on those flurries, it can be very good. But with Pierce, also, you sometimes go 55 minutes and think, is he playing? He's just running routes in circles.
Well, game time tonight, 7 o'clock, 6:30 airtime here at 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. We'll talk more about that. And here, if you missed it earlier today on the Fan Morning Show, the head coach Rick Carlisle on talking about this series and this matchup, and we'll let you hear some of that in just a few minutes as well. Mark, in the meantime, let's check it down.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Butler Bulldogs Basketball. 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Registration for iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse premium seats runs through May 31st. Don't miss Hinkle Magic. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
So as the Pacers go for a 2-game-to-none advantage tonight, James, assuming that there is regression to the mean, the Pacers don't hit threes at the rate they've been hitting it, and the Cavaliers start to make more threes than they did the other night, which has kind of been their MO over the course of the season. How's this game play out?
It depends on who they have available as well. So I think it bodes well for the Pacers. But again, as I've been hammering home, just can't give up that many points in the paint and consider yourself in position to really win this game. You want to shut that down and play with a little more force inside.
Kevin, how do you see things working out for the Pacers tonight?
Yeah, I hate to cop out, but I think James is right. Availability-wise, I think it'll be huge.
I'm always right. You can feel free to agree with me. Yes.
But certainly, I would say one thing, Pacer-wise, they did really poorly in Game 1. That is not their calling card. Is they turned the ball over at a really high rate. So I think that is where I do point to Game 2 optimism of, yeah, they probably aren't going to, overhaul their rebounding issues in one day. The three-point line's probably not going to be as favorable to them as it was in Game 1. But that turnover number, if 17 becomes 10, that means the Pacers' offense gets 7 extra possessions.
Mm-hmm.
You know how good the Pacers' offense is? That can create, obviously, more points for them. So
yeah, I like the pace a lot. If injured guys do play, I think that pace catches up the guys that are hobbling around just a little bit. If they don't play, that means that everybody else has to play more minutes. And just the pace that the Pacers play at, I think that could be the key for them tonight. We'll see. 7 o'clock tip, 6:30 airtime here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. One other note.
Well, you know what happens if you're injured. Just follow James Boyd's advice.
Can I move it and flick it? Maybe I'll make it work.
Didn't even wait 20 minutes to come back at you.
Hey, I respect
welcome, brother.
I respect it.
Initiation. You are officially in the fraternity.
One other note for this Cleveland team yesterday, their head coach Kenny Atkinson named the NBA Coach of the Year. Also tonight, the Golden State Warriors kick off their series against the Minnesota Timberwolves out west. JB, do the old guys have a shot here?
Yeah, you always have a shot with Steph Curry. I believe that I've said this many times, especially on social media. The Warriors are not dead until you see the body.
Last night, the Celtics seemed to be in control, had a 20-point lead in the second half over the New York Knicks, and they just couldn't hit three-point shots. The Celtics were 15 of 60 from three-point range. They missed 45 three-point shots.
Yeah, I believe the 60 three-point attempts is like an NBA playoff record, so that was a bit crazy. And Jason Tatum, remember that you are 6'9", 6'10". The basket is pretty easy to score at when you go towards it. So just a suggestion.
Mikal Bridges just taking the ball away from a potential three-point tying shot at the end of the game. That was in overtime, 108-105. The Knicks win it. OG Anunoby had 29 points. Brunson had 29 as well. Nuggets came from 11 down in the last 4.5 minutes to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, 121-119. Jokic doing it again. 42 points, 22 rebounds, 6 assists, couple of block shots. Only Wilt Chamberlain, who did it twice. Shaquille O'Neal did it once. Giannis did it back in 2022. That's the list of guys with 42 and 22 and more than 5 assists in an NBA playoff game. That's it.
Not bad company. I remember I scored 35 in an intramural game, and I thought I was doing good.
Aaron Gordon hit the game winner for the Nuggets with just under 3
like
seconds
the intramural
to go.
comp to game 1 of the Western Conference.
It's just me and Jokic out there together,
right.
man. Same company.
Same type of no look on the move passes.
Exactly.
Type thing,
I was posting everybody up.
Baseball last night, the Braves shut out the Reds 4-0, and the Cubs got the hitting sticks out, beat the San Francisco Giants 9-2. Later on tonight, over at Victory Field, the Columbus Clippers in town start a series with the Indianapolis Indians. Always a good thing to do. And you got some Colts news too, Kevin, before we go from yesterday? Nope. Didn't you update me on something earlier?
Do
today?
I? Gosh, that's news to me. Sorry.
I was about to say, that Colts news, I'm not doing my job.
I'm like panicking over
I know
here.
in the
I'm like,
NFL.
looking at, did I see a roster move, James? I don't know. I think
we were just talking about rookie minicamp coming up on Saturday.
Yes, okay.
So.
Rookie minicamp Friday. We'll be out there West 56th Street. Nothing transactional.
Breaking news from 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I think
he's on it today.
I think
Mark Teichman's
NFL
on it.
news we did talk about maybe earlier
Justin
was
Tucker.
the draft to Washington, D.C. coming up in 2027.
Someone's going in the monument water, right? Are they going to build the stage over it?
Man,
let me just say this now because I know people of Indianapolis want the draft bad, and I am all for events in our city. I think it's awesome. It's a big reason why I have a job. I think it's great. I can't think of an event I would less want to attend than watching the NFL draft. Oh. It just screams Times Square New Year's Eve to me.
And it drags on.
I mean, like, what are you watching? Like, players get announced, and I mean, it's not even like there's that. Like, it's not like celebrities are up there. I mean, sure, you have a random like Jonathan Taylor announcing a pick, but you want Roger Goodell's like secretary announcing picks for you?
I know people that have gone that have said it's very boring to see in person because it's such a TV event. Because at least you're getting breakdown and all that stuff. When you're just up there, there's a pick, and then 10 more minutes go by, and nothing's going on until the next pick, and you're not getting any of this analysis. That's all it is.
I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with what drinks you consume, and then does that heighten?
Gosh, even then, that means I got to go pee more, and like to be in a crowd like that, that's not good.
But it happens every year.
Trust me, I'm shocked. And James, it is great for us, but my job is to give my honest opinion, and I can't fake it. Whenever the draft comes here, I'll be like, that's awesome. I hope the economic impact is great. I can't think of a place
So you will not be out there with me?
Well, you know where you and I will be. You and I will be holed up at
Well, Kevin, if you had to pee at this last draft, there was, Lambeau Field's the biggest toilet in town. So you could have just gone right there. Just done zipped right down the side of the building.
There's your breaking news.
Go ahead and play
No joke. If you tried that, I'm pretty sure we would see him on the news. I stepped on the grass after they played at Lambeau Field last year, and the guy was like, hey, not like rude about it. He was like, hey, we don't have anybody step on this grass except for the players. Like, it was very, very, very sacred. I'm like, okay, my bad. It is what it is. I don't want you to, tackle me, but
it's a little Augusta National
vibe. Protect it.
Yeah.
Got to protect it from the Bears, right? That's how that works.
1-0 in 2025. That's all I'm saying.
The one big difference, though, if you go to Times Square, once you go in, it's all cordoned off. Once you're in, they won't let you out to go to the restroom or anything like that.
Can we rag on James Boyd more for the 35 points in the intramural game drop that he just had there? Come on now.
Yeah, me and Jokic are the same player. I was in the post. I was throwing left and right hooks. I mean, come on, man.
You playing against 11-year-olds or what?
Hey, I told you, I'll take wins wherever I can get them. Remember when he showed me Max Bowen's picture at basketball practice? I told him I could destroy him. You gotta tell him, teach him young. Oh, give me that rebound, yeah, baby.
That's pretty good. It literally is unreal. That is a 100-point effort.
Smothered chicken
From
on
James
Max
Boyd.
Bowen.
You are the player of the game today, Mark. I like it. Must be the clean-shaven look is working for you.
My brain started working again.
All right. Coming up in a moment, if you missed any of the Rick Carlisle interview a little while ago here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan, we'll let you hear some of the coaches' thoughts as we get ready for Game 2 against the Cleveland Cavaliers later tonight. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton, Jeff Rickard with you this morning, getting ready for the Pacers Game 2 matchup with the Cleveland Cavaliers later tonight. Before we get going, gentlemen, I cannot recommend to you guys enough the Korean broccoli dish from Cluster Truck. We've tried a bunch of things. It is my favorite at this point in time.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. The way you look at that thing, I hope that Rosie and Max find someone in their lives.
I mean, he enjoys it so much. He's basically eating in my lap. I mean, can a brother get a little room here?
They got a good.
That's an HR situation, I think.
Man,
I mean,
man.
every bite brought him closer and closer.
Maybe I just like you, James.
Jeez.
Oh no, I'm not up, for any of that.
Speaking of good food and good times, reminder tonight, Pacers official watch party at the Great Ale Emporium up in Castleton. That is 6 p.m. tonight. If you can put up with the likes of Chris Denary and Eddie White being there, probably more Eddie White than anything. You also have the Pacemates there. So Pacemates, Chris Denary, Eddie White Company, some prizes, some fun. Again, that is 6 o'clock watch party tonight.
Mark just texted home. He said, I've got to do some work stuff tonight.
Sorry, honey. She won't mind. She's like, you're leaving? Bye.
Kevin, a little while ago, I had a chance to talk to Rick Carlisle. What'd you take away from that conversation earlier today?
Yeah, obviously, anytime a coach joins us on a day of a playoff game, I honestly am always like, is he really going to call us this morning, do you think? And he did.
There is that little bit of like.
I know. I'm like today he was like 1 minute late, and I was kind of like, and that's rare. I think Mark can speak to this. Mm-hmm. He usually is like a 7:58 caller for us, so a little bit of nervousness, but once he did call, Rick was great as usual. And, the first question I just kind of want to throw Rick's way, we'll play the answer right now. We all can look at the box score and be like, oh, yeah, the Pacers clearly won the three-point line. But in watching it on film, did he feel like the quality of their looks and the lack of quality looks for Cleveland played out as well?
We had a really good shot-making game. I think that's probably pretty well documented. Cleveland didn't make as many. So I think coming into this game, there's a couple of things that we really got to be aware of. They had a lot of points in the first 10 seconds of the clock. I think it had 56 or something like that in the first 10 seconds of the clock. And a lot of their good threes came in transition. And so, we got to do a better job getting back. That's one thing. In terms of our threes, we've got to generate as many good ones as we can. And, shot making can come and go. And so, you can't just say, hey, we're just going to make shots every game, but the process is important. We want to get good looks. Nembhard had a big shot making night, and there were a couple that were late clock. There were a couple that were answer backs that were really at key times. And, we want him and everybody else to be really aggressive stepping into good threes. And so, that's always a big part of the game. The 3-point shot brings variance, both directions. But Cleveland's a great team. We just got to try to make it hard for them.
I think this certainly will, considering the injuries, considering how deep the Pacers are, and overall just the talent we've seen on that side of the ball. So I thought his response to sort of like the process kind of married to what we were talking about earlier, where they had a good process in the shots that they got. And can you uphold that and while also, keeping Cleveland down? Because, are they going to shoot that bad again? Probably not. But are you going to go up 70 points in the paint again? Probably not. Are you going to turn it over 16 times again? Maybe not. So there's definitely a lot of variance in a couple of different areas.
Well, and if you just want to boil it down to let's think about the others in a playoff game. Obviously Mitchell and Halliburton and Siakam. Although Siakam was pretty inefficient game one, but you kind of know what you're getting with those guys. Mobley as well. If you look at the others for the Pacers, let's call that Nesmith, Nembhard, Mathurin. They went 12 of 17 from three the other night. 12 of 17 for those three. And if you look at Cleveland's others, Jerome, Merrill, Max Strus, they were 5 of 17. And if you add it up, I would say their percentages, that Cleveland trio is supposed to shoot better than the Pacers trio. And the Pacers trio outshot them, pretty significantly. So, again, that's probably where water is going to find its level, but that's where you point to, okay, can you bring the turnover number down? and the availability. I mean, I hate to talk about health and injury report this much because I hate it. I wish we could turn off injuries for every sport, every game, et cetera, but you can't ignore it. It is an absolute huge factor that has favored the Pacers more routinely than not these last two playoffs, and tonight it looks like it's going to favor the Pacers again.
And that's what I was saying earlier today, music to my ears, the fact that you just don't see Pacers on the injury report right now, James.
Jeff's going to be dressed up as like a little Nancy Kerrigan situation.
Shane, what's the guy's name? Shane something.
Waiting for the Cavs to get off the bus.
Yeah, I was about to say, I believe the
Standing
scenario
outside the
was,
Conrad, ready to slap their
hey,
knee.
the Cleveland Cavaliers are very banged up, and then Jeff goes, music to my ears. So it was definitely not the Pacers
Shane
angle
Stanton
at first.
was his name. No, I could go there and congratulate Darius Garland on a great year and accidentally step on his toe, something like that.
Oh,
right?
goodness gracious.
Jeff stopping at a hardware store buying pipes all of a sudden.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on here?
The other thing that Coach was talking about is, as we see in all series, certainly in the NBA, the adaptations that have to be made in strategy from game to game, and he spoke about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, you always try to anticipate. Sometimes you have a member of your staff take the view of the other team as they watch the game, watch it with respect to what they will do different. To me, it's pretty simple headed into this game. It's going to be more physical. There's going to be more pressure. Cleveland's a very deep team. The building is going to be much louder. All that stuff. I mean, it was crazy loud in there in game one, especially in the late in the third quarter when they made a huge run on us. And I was proud we were able to hold the line. And in the last play of the quarter, Miles hit the three to keep us in front headed into the fourth, which was a huge play and quieted things down a little bit. Each game in a playoff series is a new chapter. It's a new set of everything. There are a lot of different things that can happen. There are things with lineup. There are things with rotation. There are things with officiating. I mean, you name it. And so we got to be ready for everything. But our general approach has got to be that we've got to attack. We've got to attack at both ends. We've got to be fearless, and we've got to expect it to be very, very difficult.
Attack, move the ball, do what the Pacers do. Play with high pace, attack, move the ball, make them defend the perimeter.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to how they broke down the Bucks. You swing the ball enough, you can't outrun a pass. I mean, every high school coach in Indiana is probably telling their kids that if you pass it, you can pass it faster, you can run. So we'll see if they can, kind of get them scrambling a little bit. But also, I do expect the Cavaliers to respond, man. I just can't see a team, who's played that well all year. Now, granted, they were healthier, kind of just wilting immediately. They will respond, mainly because I trust Donovan Mitchell to respond. I've seen it too many times before.
All right, we'll talk more about that. And also, I think Mark has parlay thoughts on this game tonight. Mark's got a lot of thoughts today.
I made that bet before all the injury news was coming out, so we'll see how that goes.
All right, we'll check it out next and have a Jiffy Lube stat of the day as we continue on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
That'll wake you up, get you going on a Tuesday. Game day for the Indiana Pacers. Tip time 7 o'clock tonight in Cleveland. Airtime 6:30 here on the Fan. Kevin, you said it'll be on TNT tonight at 7 o'clock, correct?
Yeah, TNT tonight, 7:30 tip coming up Friday, and then 8 o'clock on Sunday.
Mark, I know you have thoughts on a parlay. I think you've already placed one for this game tonight, have you not?
I placed it after game one. So when already these spreads were coming out, I was like, oh boy, Pacers are heavy underdogs again, even despite winning game one. So I threw some money down, and ride with me if you like, fade me if you want. That's fine. I don't give a bleep.
Call that number.
Let's get Mark a T-shirt that says "Fade me if you want."
Yeah, go ahead. So 5 legs, mostly Pacers, but there is one Cavs part in here. I threw $5 down because I had a bonus bet from the Derby. Ka-ching. Pacers plus 9.5. I think it's down to 9 there. So if you missed out on that, too bad. Tyrese Halliburton over 18.5 points. Miles Turner over 14.5. Andrew Nembhard over 12.5. And Evan Mobley over 17.5. I feel like I'm going to be sweating that one like I stole something. So $5 though will pay out over $70 there. So there you go.
I'm all for the entertainment level that comes with parlays, and obviously you hear that 5 to win 70. You got great juice with that. Should we just not overthink it and just hammer the Pacers with the spread?
I was thinking about that.
I am stunned at this line, and it
hasn't gone down.
It got up to 10 at one point yesterday, and then it has gone just half a point, 9.5.
No, it's down to 9 now.
9 with that injury report. Even if the Pacers and the Cavs were totally healthy, I wouldn't think either of these teams would be 9 points better than the other. So I just, wow. That's probably where I'm leaning, honestly, more than anything tonight.
I think it's one of those things, James brought this up a little while ago, where there are a lot of people, certainly a lot of Cleveland Cavaliers, believers, fans, whatever. It's all about betting lines and moving lines. But to your point, James, there are people, despite even injuries, that think that the Cavs are they're not going to have that woeful a night shooting. The Pacers are not going to shoot that great. And because they're at home and it's game 2 and now they're down 1, that they are just due for a big bounce-back game. That's, I think, what the thinking is, right?
It has to be, especially if you're in that camp. You can't be going into the game thinking, oh, man, it's already over because we got a few banged-up guys. You still have your best player. I think Donovan Mitchell is a guy who can control a game. We've seen that. He's a smaller guard, so it might not look the same as if LeBron James or Luka Doncic or Giannis Antetokounmpo controls the game. But I do think Donovan Mitchell is capable of, setting the tone. Obviously scoring is one of his best attributes. I expect him to shoot the ball better from outside. And then it comes down to, okay, if my best player showed up, can I get a little bit of help from the others? And I know that's been a theme for Kevin as well. It's like, who are the other guys, not just for the Pacers, but on the Cavs side, that can help them if they are a bit depleted?
All right, we've been talking about the NBA playoffs all morning long. A lot of success for teams on the road in Game 1 of the second round. That leads us to Scotty's Jiffy Lube stat of the day. Kevin, so far in the 2025 NBA Conference Semis, the road team has won Game 1 in 3 of the 4 series. The 4th series between Golden State and Minnesota getting underway tonight. Could be a clean sweep, who knows? The last time 3 road teams won Game 1 in the NBA Conference Semis, 2023, not that long ago. Philly winning at Boston, Miami winning at Madison Square Garden against the Knicks, and the Lakers beating the Warriors in San Francisco. In the 4th series, the top-seeded Denver Nuggets won their opener against the Phoenix Suns. The NBA adopted the conference semifinal format back in the 66-67 season. You remember that one well, don't you, James?
Yeah, man, I was, negative however many years old.
Scotty says he could not find an instance where all 4 road teams won the opening game of the conference.
Boy, I'm stunned it happened that recently. But yeah, to that last point, all 4 having never happened. And it wouldn't shock me at all if Golden State won in Minnesota tonight. So pretty crazy. And really, last night, James, I thought, has really described it well all morning long. It had a March Madness feel. The collapse of Boston kind of had a bit of a March Madness feel to it. And then Boston had that late flurry, too, there to kind of send the game in overtime.
Yeah.
And how great was that Brunson look to end regulation?
I thought that was like, oh man, they just blew it.
That's a Brunson shot. How many times have you seen him throw the lefty floater up on that side of the glass, off the glass, and going in? And it's not like Horford is Porzingis at the rim.
Right.
Horford is not, impacting you that much. So just 2 outstanding games last night. with the Knicks winning on the road and the Nuggets winning as well.
It's still staggering when you look at that statistic at the bottom of the box score for the Boston Celtics to go 15 of 60 from three-point range. I mean, that's just stunning.
Yeah, and they won't change their style. They probably will not take 63 pointers again, but I mean, their number, I heard their coach talk a lot about it, Joe Mazzulla, and he said they want to get 53s up. And normally it works because they have so many good shooters. But again, when it's going like that, just lean on your two big wings and going to the basket. Because I think Jaylen Brown was 1 for 10 from three, and then Jason Tatum was 4 for 15 from three. And maybe I'm getting older. There should be nobody in the NBA taking 15 threes in a game unless your name is Steph Curry or Klay Thompson or somebody who's known for doing that. Jason Tatum, I know you're a pretty good shooter, but there is no way I would ever say that's a good game plan.
Mark, I hate to do this to you, and it pains me, but it was certainly one of my early sports memories. 27 years ago today, Kerry Wood, 20 strikeouts.
Unbelievable.
Gosh, I hate to say that out loud.
I know. It ages us very much, but that was one of the more electric performances.
I'm complimenting the Cubs.
Well,
but
that's fine,
was
too.
That was such a memory of, like, there was part of, like, the early childhood of, like, just going home and watching baseball that I loved. And what was I would have been 8 years old, I guess, 27 years ago. Gosh, what a memory that is. I just have vivid images of, like, Craig Biggio striking out and just the pump of the fist by Kerry Wood. And, oh, gosh. That's a big-time sport memory for me.
As a young Cubs fan, you're like, all right, we got Kerry Wood, we got Mark Pryor. Sky's the limit. Well, that flamed out spectacularly.
You immediately go there. You can't just cherish the 27-year memory.
I love Kerry Wood, but I'm
celebrate
also like
the memory.
I am celebrating.
Immediately.
I'm celebrating. Just sad too.
That was. I mean, I remember watching baseball during that time, and we all thought with those two pitchers, and the Cubs had some really good position players at the time too. We all thought this is going to be a team that's built to compete for the next decade, and injuries just completely derailed it.
I just love how Mark basically gave us a nice little therapy session.
Cynical.
I'm cheering, but I'm sad too.
They've won since. I'm fine. I'm good.
He's been taking it out.
You wouldn't know it by your tone.
Happy times.
He's been taking it out on all of us all day long, though, James.
It's fine. I mean, like I said, the one I walked into, I earned. I'll take it.
It's okay.
We generally do. Great job today, guys. The Pacers again tonight, 7 o'clock, 6:30 airtime here at 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan, see if they can take a 2-0 lead in this playoff series. You'll hear more about that in the way that only Kevin's favorite, Jake Query, can do from noon to 3 later on today. And then JMV does his thing, as always, from 3 to 6. Mark, outstanding job today. I know you guys have a busy day as well. We hope that you spend as much of it as you can with us, whether it's on the car, on the website, to smartphone, whatever. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan. We are here to take you through the day. Have a good one.